big time problems with that motor, buddy. Hey, just between you and me, the idea is to avoid the other cars. Congratulations! You just set the sport back 30 years with that move. That move will put you in the Hall of Shame. You keep doing stuff like that and we're going to lose our sponsor. Looks like that's it for us today. Now I know why you got canned by your old team. It's over. We can't fix that damage.
Looks like your car is toast. You'll need a tow back to pit lane, press and hold your reset button and we'll come and get you.
We got big time problems with that motor, buddy. Hey, just between you and me, the idea is to avoid the other cars. Congratulations! You just set the sport back 30 years with that move. That move will put you in the Hall of Shame. You keep doing stuff like that and we're going to lose our sponsor. Looks like that's it for us today. Now I know why you got canned by your old team. It's over. We can't fix that damage.
Welcome, race fans, to Pit Stop TV. As usual, we're live to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch tonight. Noah Carmichael and Trey Shuttlesworth with me in the booth. I'm Andrew Cardinale IV, and this is Pit Stop TV's live coverage of the Galaxy Cup Series corrugated cardboard 400 from Michigan International Speedway. We join you tonight from the virtual Lenawee County, Michigan for race 15 of 36 in the season. Located among the rolling hills of southern Michigan, just outside of Detroit, lies the D-shaped 2-mile oval known as Michigan International Speedway. A home race for Chevy and Ford, this wide venue broke ground in 1967, seeing early resistance as the company that owned the Speedway went bankrupt. Luckily, through the wonderful world of financing, the Speedway was able to host its first race a year later with USAC, and Roger Penske bought the Speedway in 1972. Penske later merged with ISC, who still owns Michigan International Speedway to this day, and Michigan has played host to many incredible moments in auto racing since, with events such as the controversial 1996 US 500 and the incredible return to victory lane for Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 2011. Noah, as this field of 40 gets set to roll off 400 miles, what can we expect out of them today?
High speed for one. This is one of the fastest tracks and for any series that got to come here. NASCAR Pro 2011, I believe it was. Marcos Ambrose hit around 211, which is something that we didn't really see out of him a lot. That was the presidency, so you can have the speeds 211 going into the corners. You don't really have to lift that much. What the most you're going to do is just peak the throttle a little bit and hammer it back down for the rest of the corner. You can hold it wide open through almost the entire track, and even in the corners you can hold almost 3 lanes. There's a lot of places these guys can go. We thought we were going to have somewhat more of a packed race than we had here, because we didn't see any Kerner intros, but he showed up, so that's going to be something very interesting to see if Eddie Kerner can come back, because he absolutely tore to the field last week, and now we see him back here in Michigan, so it's going to be very interesting to see what Eddie can pull out here tonight if he can go back-to-back.
To speak a little bit about Eddie Kerner coming into tonight, it's a really an unknown variable, because he just stepped into the session a couple of laps ago, so we really don't know if he has many practice laps yet or not. He very easily could have put in a couple of hours, into fine-tuning a setup, and he could be able to blow away the field. But there's a lot of competitive guys in the field, just like last week. We have to see if anyone can execute. Something that's a little different from conventional stock car racing at Michigan, we're probably going to see cornering speeds just as high as you see on the straightaway, just because of the current rules package in place for the NASCAR Cup Series in real life that you also see in iRacing. So we should see a lot of pack racing early into a run, I would have to foresee. We'll have to see how it plays out tonight.
Well, we're already getting a decent idea of how the cars are looking around this place, and it's really important to actually sit here and pay attention to practice a little bit, because these cars have gone through a few changes this week. Of course, Tuesday night when we covered the Lucky Dog Sim Racing League at Road Atlanta, we talked about some of the changes for the Porsche 718 and the Audi TCR. We even documented the addition of the BMW M4 GT4 car. But these Cup cars have had some changes this week as well. Tuesday we got a few adjustments to the tires. We got the new damage model on these vehicles. And Noah, tell us some of the changes that these guys are going to be expecting.
Well, for starters, like you talking about the tires, he was the biggest one that caught off a lot of drivers in the Lucky Dog Sim Racing. As we saw in the interview, it literally happened about 12 hours before the race even started, before the session opened, so all the work that they went into going into Road Atlanta was thrown out the window because they didn't know what to expect out of these tires, which is kind of the same situation for these guys are. I was lucky enough to compete in a charity event last night with Raja and Monan for the George Floyd Memorial Fund, and that was a lot of fun, but a lot of drivers had issues with the tires, so it's just a really big what if on how these cars are going to handle of how they're going to go through the corners and on the straightaways, because it's just a really big unknown for a lot of tracks. So it's going to be interesting to see what these guys are going to be able to throw out here, because they've had a little bit more time to get used to the change of these cars, but not enough to really hammer it down and be used to what they have to go through for these next 400 miles.
So to complement the tire model that was put into place, there is a new damage model also that was introduced to the NASCAR Cup cars. I also participated in that invitational event. Invitational event last night. It was a one-off. And the new damage model, it's definitely visually really enhances the NASCAR Cup car. It definitely, I think, needs some fine-tuning, but the most notable thing that these guys have to take into account tonight is the fact that you're going to be punished a lot more for any contact that you get out there.
Yeah, absolutely. The name of the game, since we got the new tire model 7, NTM7 as a lot of people refer to it, the most important thing has just been saving your tires, being very careful not to scrub too much rubber off in the corners, and making sure to bring them up to temperature, I think, in the right way. I think that's most important no matter what car you're in. But definitely just trying to make it around the corner as quickly as you can without scrubbing off too much speed and therefore scrubbing off too much rubber. So watching your steering angle as you're turning the wheel into the corner, and making sure that if you get into an understeer situation that you don't just crank the wheel, because that's not going to help you in the first place, but it's also just going to kill your right front tire. So these guys have been going through a lot of changes this week trying to prepare for this race. Not everybody is totally up to speed on trying to work with these new tires, and it's actually, I have to go up to a different little part of the dock that I have. We have some feedback from some of the drivers going into this event. Rich Petrucco said that the new tire model will really favor some drivers that prefer a looser race car. And that said, the cream will still rise to the top. It is still a race car, and it still takes talent to get around any racetrack. So, I mean, it's good to see how these drivers are chiming in. I know everybody has been kind of struggling with this change to these NASCAR Cup cars. It is definitely proving to be a bit of an issue for some, while others are just picking right up to it. We do have, it looks like, 36 drivers ready to get going tonight. We have one spotter that actually, I think, connected to the race as a driver. So you'll see spotter 79 on the ticker. Don't worry about him. He will be spotting, I hope. And otherwise, we have 36 cars, which I think is possibly a record for the Galaxy Cup Series.
Yeah, and what a better way to do it on a track as wide as this. It's going to be very interesting. I'm glad you talked about tire model. I'm not that much in the whole iRacing news. I just play the game. That's all I do. I don't really care about the news until someone tells me. But yeah, the idea of having a looser car is something that's really going to benefit some of these drivers here, because something that I've noticed in Michigan, I haven't really had a time to go into New Michigan, but in the Legacy Michigan, the biggest issue I have is when you lose a tire grip, you end up plowing through the corners. So it's really going to help here because you're going to end up sliding. I was lucky enough to do Carburetor Cup with the new Cup cars on this track, and it's just so much fun to drive these cars around here because of how fast and wide open it is. So with these new tire models, it makes it looser. We're going to be very interesting to see how they can go through these corners and if they can hold on to it or not. But I'm glad you did that. Tristan reminded me about the damage model, because that was something that Trey, my bad, I don't know why I said Tristan, Trey, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I'm glad you told me about the damage model, because that's something that bit me in that race too. I got punted 3 times in the LCQ race, and it's just so much of a difference, because if you damage these cars on the old damage model, it's like mostly visual damage unless you're like rolling over. But with this, I got punted in the rear 3 times, and it upset the rear so much that I was loose through every corner of the racetrack that I touched. It ruined everything that I had. So it's going to be very interesting, because we've seen a lot of drivers get bit last week in Kansas spinning off the corners, and that was on the old damage model. Now they're in a new damage model, so if they get even the slightest bit of damage, that's going to cause some major aero difference in the car, and you're going to see that throughout it. And at a track like this, is you cannot have any aero damage, because that's just going to ruin your race car until you go to pit road.
I think the thing that was most telling about the change in the damage model is the fact that we were on a road course last night, so you're able to compensate a little bit more for any, handling discrepancies or, bit of a top speed deficiency as a result of damage. But when you're at a track like Michigan, your inputs into the pedals and into your wheel, they're going to be very minute. So any damage you take is really going to be very noticeable compared to, say, the Charlotte Roval.
Well, as the checkered flag flies, you can see Barney waving the flag there just behind the ticker. That'll do it for practice. We're going to roll into our qualifying session, and we'll step away from the mics, let you guys listen to the first half of qualifying here as these drivers set all of their fast times. Expect to see names like Eddie Kerner, Kevin Steele, Eric Wineland, and more. Bryson Hixenbaugh, of course, as well. How can we forget him winning the Coke 600 not so long ago? Or sorry, oh man, I said it. I was trying not to say it a couple of weekends ago for the 600, the ABillion Wood Projects LLC 600. There we go. It's the Coke 600 equivalent here for the Galaxy Cup Series. Winning that a couple of weeks ago. A lot of good names. Expect to see those guys towards the top. And again, for that, we'll let you guys listen and see how these guys roll through qualifying. We'll be right back to you. We're just going to step away from the mics. And welcome back to our wonderful voices as Eric Wineland ends up wrapping up his qualifying run here across the start-finish line. We'll see where he goes on the leaderboard. Well, he doesn't jump up. Oh, he does jump up into the top 10, but only 10th place. And I was noticing that really we only see one or two of these guys that we expected to be up at the top. There is a wide selection of drivers all over your qualifying grid right now. Eddie Kerner did go up to 3rd place to see his car there as he's traveling at just 14 miles an hour into turn 3. But we do have Jason Taylor on the speedway. Otherwise, most of these guys have their runs in, and he's the only driver at speed right now, Jason Taylor. He's the only driver that I see on at speed on the racetrack. And of course, we only have 30 seconds left here in qualifying. So this is how your field is going to look pretty much. We've got Preston McRae on pole, and that's certainly unexpected, at least from me. But we do have one more car. Like I said, one more car on the racetrack. We'll see if he goes faster. It's Jason Taylor across the start-finish line. And Taylor goes to 16th on your leaderboard, so he will not even get close then to that pole spot, but not that bad of a run, actually. He's only 2.5 tenths off of the pole, so I mean, this whole field very, very close. It's 2.5 tenths or so, well, about 3 tenths or less, all the way back through Christopher Hammond, and then you have a big separation from 20th on back. But as we get ready to go racing for 200 laps here, let's go ahead and walk down your grid. For the top 10, I'll turn it over to Noah Carmichael.
Alright, so starting on pole is Preston McRae in the number 53. Your outside pole sitters is a big surprise. And Kevin Steele, he's going to line up in second. We're lining up in row number 3. Last week's winner out of Kansas is Eddie Kerner in the number 98. Lining up next to him is Jeremy Morrison. Starting 5th is Cameron Stone. 6th going to be Richard Patrico. Starting right behind them is going to be Dave Furs Jr. in the 04. Brandon Gullett in the 55. And then rounding out your top 10 is going to be Ryan Mabry, and your second in points right now, Eric Wineland.
We look to the 11th through 20th positions here. So Cam Codwell is going to line up in that P11 position, and outside of him will be Matthew Woods in 12th. Inside row 7, Jacob Breeder. Outside of him will be Dakota Knoll in the P14 position. So Wayne Grassi, who did a heck of a job, scored a top 5 last week at Kansas. He's going to line up 15th. Jason S. Taylor, new to the series this week. Out of Texas, he'll be lining up 16th. Josh Copernall and Dallas Pataska in row 9, and then row 10 is going to be Christopher Hammond and Jonathan Delaney.
Delaney rounds out your top 20. Then it's Zach Prost in 21st, Danny Myatt 22nd, Chris Wood 23rd, Nolan Hodgson 24th in row number 12. Row number 13 gives us Mike Aiello? I'm going to say Aiello. I think that's about as close as we can get it there. Alan Hewitt rolling off 26th. Then it's Hunter Moody and Bryson Hixenbaugh in 28th, and that's going to be almost like AJ Allmendinger today at Atlanta, coming from very deep in the field to try and win this one. 28th on the starting grid for Bryson Hixenbaugh. Then it's Dalton Mobley, Randy Drumhiller, Tommy Amos, Damaris Hickenbottom, Cody Goza, Cody Bird, and Tim Reel, and well, spotter 79 throwing his name in the bag. I think actually Daniel Fields should take his spot. So 36 cars showing up tonight and getting ready to go green flag racing from Michigan. Noah, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who wins this one?
I'm not doing that right now. It's way too early because we were expecting that the top 3 that we usually see of Hixenbaugh, Grassi, Wineland, and Kerner being your top 4, they're nowhere near the top 4. The closest right now is Kerner starting 3rd. I was surprised a lot by Hixenbaugh on the fact that he wasn't starting. He wasn't even starting. He didn't even make a lap. He didn't even do a lap. So that was very interesting to me, the fact they did that. So it's very interesting out of him. I don't know if he just didn't have time. He was doing something else. He thought he had more time, but he's starting way back in the field. Wayne Grassi, he's starting back there in 15th. I'm not too surprised. He seems to start towards the back a lot, and he just tears his way through the field. So that's going to be interesting to see. But he's just with a lot of very well unknowns because with the people that we thought were going to start up front are nowhere near the front.
Based off of 1 week of racing action for me in this series, I really like what I saw out of Eric Wineland last week. He was very clean and consistent for most of the race. And there's going to be a lot of attrition tonight, I think. Michigan tends to produce a lot of pack racing, so we'll probably see a couple of big wrecks that take guys out. I just have a good feeling nobody able to avoid it, stay in contention. Go for the win tonight.
Well, it's all about to get kicked off as the field paces through turns 3 and 4. It shows Eddie Kerner up at the top of the board, but that has not updated. These guys have not taken a scoring loop. So as they come out of turn number 4, ready for the green flag, the pace truck gonna dip down onto the apron. You see the field out of turn number 4, getting ready to go green, double file into the Geico restart zone. Green flag flies. Barney waves that thing as hard as he can, and we are green. Preston McRae, your leader, off into turn number 1.
He's going to throw his arm out doing that as they make their way down to the turn number 1. McRae's going to hold on to the race lead in that Credit One Bank Chevrolet. On his outside is that 44 Ally Chevrolet of Kevin Steele. Kerner with a push to the 53. He's going to make him go wide and make a look to the inside down the back straightaway, as now he's going to try and peek himself into the lead as they get ready to head into the 3. Hard on the gas, not even up to speed yet. They're hitting 187 going into turn number 3, but he's going to clear him. Milt Morrison in the 22 is going to move up the 3rd as they're getting ready to complete lap number 1 here at Michigan.
Starting to see the effects of pack racing already here at Michigan. So the top 2 were separated by less than a thousandth of a second here. Eddie Kerner already to the top of the board. Jim Morrison makes his way from P4 up to P2. He's side by side with that number 53 as we head into turn 1. He's going to overtake Preston McRae on the entry of 1, side by side for 3rd.
Morrison up to 2nd place. He brings Petrucco with him in the 3rd. Here comes Kevin Steele around the bottom side. The 57, Cameron Stone, he puts his name in the bag. He's making progress up on the bottom. Seems like the bottom is good early. We'll see how that holds over the course of a run. Of course, dynamic tracks are in effect on iRacing. They're just sometimes finicky, sometimes hard to work with, and hard to get a groove to come in at one specific part of a racetrack unless you're on dirt. It's really suited for dirt, not quite pavement racing. We'll see how it works out tonight, trying to work the bottom and the top. Eddie Kerner goes faster so far, a 38.754. That 98 is on rails. Kevin Steele, a big move to the inside of the 57 of Stone, and he's going to lose some time there. They go side by side out of turn number 2.
An update on Bryson Nixon, Bob. We noted how far back he was in the field. He has moved himself up to 25th currently. Not exactly making any big moves right now, so you don't know if he has a little bit of an issue with the setup. He is currently entering turn number 3 at the moment, trying to make an outside and look in the 23rd by Chris Awood. But still, just very weird seeing him that far back and not making that many moves. I don't know if it's just the bad setup or he didn't have enough time, but still, he is not doing too well. Back up to the top of the field now. It is still Eddie Kerner holding on to the race lead, but unlike that we saw at Kansas, he's not able to do much with it. He has not been able to pull away and create a gap. You saw Petrucco there in the 27. He runs 3rd. He's now your new fastest leader, or the new fastest lap, and he sits in 3rd. And Jeremy Morrison, as we've seen in the past, runs really well until he runs into engine issues. So barring if he has any of those this week, right now he's set himself in a pretty good position early on in this race.
You know, we're seeing the effects of that massive spoiler there on these NASCAR Cup cars. Not very easy for that leader of Kerner to break away from the pack, even if he does have a lot of pace. The closest side-by-side battle, Eric Wineland, he's alongside that number 53 of Preston McRae, and they're battling for the final top 5 spot. Took note that that number 44 machine of Kevin Steele, he's dropped off like a rock since the start of the race after starting on that outside front row. He's currently sitting P7. He's finally stagnated in that 7th position, so let's see what he can do here as we head into the middle stages of this run.
You don't totally see this in NASCAR anymore, but really when this Cup package came out in 2019, you immediately saw teams and drivers trim their cars out for qualifying and then just sink back in the race because they didn't have enough downforce. They couldn't handle the car on a long run. You don't have those same downforce options. We've actually had a pass for the lead. Eddie Kerner has been overtaken by Jeremy Morrison in that past lap. You don't have those same trim options and ways to trim the car out necessarily. You can kind of mess with rake with your ride heights. But you can't do a whole lot in terms of downforce, but you can still set your car up for qualifying as opposed to race pace, and I think that's what a lot of these guys have done. McRae and Steele included, almost 3 wide for the lead though, as Petrucco was looking downstairs of Kerner. Kerner's going to get the spot for now over Morrison as he retakes the lead this time across the start-finish, but definitely I think starting to see the guys who prioritize qualifying over race pace sink backwards, and the guys who prioritize race pace over qualifying move up towards the front.
Yeah, and you talk about the difference of the aero package they have, something else to note about is that tapered spacer that they have because they refuse to call it a restrictor plate now. So they run that. So it really holds off the speed. So what we talked about in 2011 where they're hitting 210, 211 going into the corners, they're lucky to hit 193. So it really bunches up the pack because they want to do this whole high downforce, low horsepower stuff, and it really struggles. I'm just glad they don't have the PJ1 all over the racetrack because it's already been ruining the IndyCar race at Texas. But luckily now we don't have that here, so we get to see what these drivers can actually do. Eddie Kerner, you talked about, he took over the race lead. Morrison has about a 5-car gap back to him. But Petrucco on back is in a really tough fight with Wineland and Cameron Stone. As here they go down the back straightaway, they are bumper to bumper to bumper all the way down the straightaway. Stone's actually going to push Petrucco, give him a little bit of a shove as they head off into turn number 3. Stone's going to take the high side. Wineland has nowhere to go. He's stuck in that dirty air. He can't really do much about it. Now they head off into turn number 4 as now Kerner trying to pull away again as they make their way to complete lap number 8, as now we see the field spread themselves out more to try and get some miles into this race.
Unlike Kansas last week, we're getting a lot of potential here at seeing this first stage go all the way to the end. So we're looking at 3 stages today, which is conventional in Galaxy Cup action and action in real life NASCAR National Series action. We're looking at stage breaks at lap 60, 120, and then we'll go 80 laps to the end of the race. So regardless, here in stage 1, we are definitely going to see one pit stop play out. The battle right now, as we're on board with that number 31 of Eric Wineland, is for third. Petrucco looking to defend on Jeremy Morrison. Morrison stuck to the outside after his heroic run to the front into the lead a couple laps ago.
Yeah, Petrucco and Morrison were doing great right there, hanging with Kerner, but as the tires start to wear out, they're falling way off pace, and Wineland's, I think, starting to get held up just a little bit. I don't know if anybody has Kerner's pace right now, but Wineland is definitely looking like he's better than the 2 cars ahead of him as he gives a bump to Morrison down the back straightaway and looks low now of that number 22 Chevrolet Camaro off into turn 3. He's going to go for the pass on the bottom side, and they'll draw alongside of one another. And that's going to give that spot to Eric Wineland, so we move him up into 3rd place. Meanwhile, Cameron Stone is in 5th, Wayne Grassy 6th, Christopher Hammond in 7th, Preston McRae, your pole sitter, back to 8th place, Kevin Steele, who started to his outside in 9th, and Danny Myatt rounds out your top 10 at the moment. These guys already getting very spread out across this racetrack. And Trey, you mentioned this stage could actually go green to the end. But I was hearing some rumors from the drivers that this is going to get very, very loose here soon. I shouldn't say rumors, but definitely some feedback from the drivers that these cars will get very, very loose towards the latter part of the run, and that could lead to some issues and maybe some cautions.
Yeah, you talked about Wayne Grassi running up at 6th. He's actually made the move back to 5th. We pointed out the fact he started 15th, and I stated that it wasn't too surprised because he seems to like to start towards the outside the top 10. He just runs his way up to the front. That's what he's done already. He's all the way up to 5th. He's already looking on Jeremy Morrison. Is just behind where Petrucco and Wineland are fighting on for 3rd. So keep an eye out for that 7 car because we've seen out of the last 2 races, he'll start in about the midfield of the pack, and then by even the quarter way mark, he just finds himself running up there with the leaders. But still, it's the man on the move still is that 98 of Eddie Kerner. He started back there in 3rd. He's already moved himself up into the lead. He has a trying to figure out where the gap is. It doesn't want to show me the gap between the leaders, but still he's just holding on to it very well as he's running away with it. There's a 2-second gap between them as they cross the start finish line. So what we've seen out of him, he just keeps pulling away with these leads, and that's nothing to be surprised about because he said at his debut he was 6th in the points at the moment. I don't know where he sits right now in the road to pro. So he's obviously one of the guys at the same amount of talent as the Coca-Cola iRacers, such as Zach Novak, Rajah Cruz, and all those other guys. So it's no surprise to see him running out well, but right now he's just tearing through this field again.
Last lap, Kerner built the gap 0.3 of a second over Eric Wineland, and he's going to continue to build that pace. And just as impressive as it's been to see Kerner move to the front, and also Grassy moving from 15th all the way to the 4th position now. Wineland actually started on the back end of the top 10 at the start of the race, and he moved his way already to the top, 2nd place. Similar to last week in Kansas, we're seeing some very similar names out there up front. Wineland and Grassy were absolutely dueling for that final podium position, and they're looking to potentially play for that 2nd place position, which it could be quite similar to finishing 2nd place to Kyle Busch in a NASCAR Ganders Outdoors Truck Series race here today.
only the third time that Grassi and Wineland are facing each other on the racetrack, and they already have some history. The last couple of weeks have not treated those two kindly, or rather they've not treated each other all that kindly. They've just had a couple of run-ins and nothing intentional, but that's exactly how rivalries start. We love to see it out here on these NASCAR ovals and these NASCAR Cup cars. So definitely building some storylines early, and Grassi up into third place now as he's going to clear Petrucco out of 2, maybe. He draws alongside of him at least and almost had him cleared out of 2. Then Petrucco had a bit of a run down the back straightaway and held Grassi down to the middle lane going down the back and into turn 3. He'll finally clear the number 27. The 7 of Grassi does. So Wayne Grassi up into 3rd, and now a very familiar top 3. We had a couple of guys move up in there that we don't usually see up there. One of those drivers is actually working his way up that we don't usually see in the top 5, Christopher Hammond. What about this guy, the Castrol GTX number 17? He is just looking bad fast right now. I don't know where this speed came from. He started 19th, and he's suddenly up into 5th place.
Yeah, the man out of New York having a pretty good run. That's something we've usually seen. He runs really well, but then he just gets caught up in bad luck because he's at the wrong place at the wrong time and gets involved in wrecks that we saw at Charlotte and at Kansas. My update right now is on who we've not talked about, that being the 63 Bryson Hixenbaugh. He didn't even get a lap. He started around back in the 25th spot. He's gained 10 spots. He's moving through the field quite nicely. He's up in the 15th. Look at the inside. He's going to take over 14th. So he's quietly moving through the field. Not enough to really get any stage points. He's now up to 14th, but it's an 8-second gap. So still, the pace is just not there for 63 early on in the race. He needs a caution right now to get him back up to the field to get as a restart button so he can go chase after the leaders, because he's just stuck back there with a lot of the mid-pack guys. We look again up to the leaders, and now Grassi and Wineland bumper to bumper. They're pushing each other down the straightaway, going to create a gap to Petrucco. Got to wonder if that's going to push the 7 wide and wash him up the racetrack. No, he's going to hold on to that line and says, "You're not going to get me like that." He's going to go. Now they wash up. We see a little bit of a tail spin, or the back end get a little happy on him exiting the corner. He holds on to it still as they're going to go down, nose the tail down the straightaway. Petrucco all over the rear bumper of that 31. He's going to take the defensive line, go up the racetrack and try and block him a little bit and head off into 1. But still, you can't even see Kern at this point. He is taken away with this race lead at the moment. It's now up to 4 seconds as they exit off of turn number 2 down the back straightaway.
4.5 seconds is the current gap between 1st and 2nd place. So behind that 4.5 second gap, we have a 4-car breakaway from the rest of the pack, which is all stretched down that nearly, I'd say, 3/4 mile long back straightaway as we now ride along for the number 7 of Grassi here, looking back on that 31 of a Wineland, and they're sure to definitely keep the battle up today. So just a note on Hammond, we were talking about Hammond a little bit earlier today. He enters with a couple podium finishes here so far in the middle stages of the season, and he's currently the best car in points without a win here tonight. So consistency is going to get him into those playoffs with ease, it looks like. Just has to keep, doing his job and doing it well. You also know, it talked a little bit about Hixenbaugh. He is making his way consistently, it seems like, up into that top 10 potentially. He may not be in the works for a lot of stage points here in stage 1, but he's currently sitting P11. If I'm him, I'm looking at maybe short pitting here and going on a gamble to try to get track position here in the early stages of this stage 1 here at Michigan Speedway.
Hixenbaugh currently running 11th, and he could just gain 1 spot over Kevin Steele and kind of hang on to that one playoff, or sorry, not playoff point, but 1 point for finishing 10th in the first stage, but I don't think he's going to do that. I would imagine that he'll play some kind of strategy similar to what you just mentioned, Trey, to try and grab a few extra spots and see what he can't do in here, stage number 1. So maybe also gain some track position, because then you got to set yourself up for the following stages. So you really got to be, I guess, just conscious of the short race here, just lap 60, but also the race all the way out to the completion of 400 miles at the end of lap 200. So Bryson Hixenbaugh has a lot to manage right now as he comes from the rear of the field almost. Started 28th and is already almost up to Kevin Steele. You see the gap right there on your screen. Very narrow, about 2.5 car lengths across the start-finish that time by to take lap number 21. And it's narrowing about a car length into 1. Hixenbaugh is all over the 44. That is for 10th.
Yeah, you see Hixenbaugh, he's really starting to move away now as he's making that move, trying to peek on the inside of that Ally Chevrolet down the back straightaway. He's right at his corner panel as they sail off into turn number 3. We're already a third of the way through the stage right now. Keep that in mind. The stage ends at lap 60. So as you talk about, the question about it is, when are the pit stops going to happen? Because it looks like we're going to stay green for the most part, unless I just gave us a commentator's curse. Exit off of turn number 4 to complete lap number 21. Move him up into the 10th spot. Now that's going to be one stage point at the moment for Hexenball, but he's not done, obviously. He's making now, setting his eyes on that 20 of Danny Myatt. Back up to the front. The gap now is up to 5 seconds between first and second, as Eric Wineland is still fighting Wayne Grassi for the second spot. So those two still going at it. That's something that we saw at Kansas. Those two will dogfight each other, and Eric ends up killing his tires, and Grassi just able to save enough to hold on to it. That's something to watch out for, to see if that 31 is going to fall off the pace and struggle again. It's going to be very interesting with these tires, because unlike IndyCar, they can go more than 35 laps because their tires actually bring the right ones to the track. So they're now going to be able to see where we can go in this run. We get to see the drama of pit stops as they get ready to have to make some adjustments and see what they have to do to make it to the end of this stage.
Not only do the NASCAR Cup cars have, tires that are actually proper for the track that they need to visit, and excellent allocation or adequate allocation, but we also have fuel economy that lets these guys go a little bit longer and gives them a bit more variability. Fuel stint here at Michigan Speedway as we watch that 27 of Petrucco in 4th place, fending off the 17 of Hammond. Fuel stint here at Michigan Speedway in a NASCAR Cup car is probably about 40 to 45 laps. So that window is currently open. However, unlike places like, say, Pocono Raceway, 2.5 miles, a lot of slow zones on the track due to lower banking and heavy braking zones, you very much risk going a lap down here if you pit early, and that could really put you behind the 8 ball. Although Hixenbauer, I believe, has come down pit road. He's scored in the mid-30s right now, I believe.
We still got him in 10th, at least on my end, still traveling at 190 miles an hour. So I don't believe Hixenbaugh is pitted. I was looking at some battles further back in the field. Preston McRae, who started on pole for this event, is currently 15th. The fact that he's dropped this far back, kind of incredible, and obviously just, that's what happens sometimes when you set your car up for the shorter run for qualifying. We do have one car in the pit lane. That's Jason Taylor, actually, who is exiting now. And let's see, that would definitely be, that's a 4-tire stop. That's fuel. That wasn't, I don't think, unexpected or anything. I think that's trying to short pit and gain some spots here. So the driver of the 37, Jason Taylor, looking to make some strategy moves and work his way up the field.
Yeah, and it's something to keep an eye on, too. Eric Kerner's already catching up to a little bit of lap traffic. Daniel Fields in his 66 right now, entering turn number 1, as he already has someone else in front of him. So, yeah, we're only on lap 26. We're already talking about lap traffic as he flies by a 64 as he exits off of turn number 2 down the back straightaway. That's the only person he really has to worry about, because the only car in front of him is, I would say, about 5 or 6 seconds is where you find Daniel Fields. So still a lot of interesting things happening as we approach the halfway point of stage number 1. Eddie just again rocketing off from the start and just running away with it, as Wineland he is still fighting Grassi. They've been going at it for about 5 or 6 laps, almost 10 laps, I believe. I'm not even keeping track. But those two are just inseparable from each other, and they put on such an amazing show. And it's going again here for the second race in a row, as now they are still on each other's back bumper, just unable to break the draft from one another.
Say what you would about stage racing, but it does incentivize hard racing in the early stages of stock car racing. And for that, you have to commend it, because sometimes guys, especially in these 400, 500-mile races, could definitely get into a rhythm and not feel the need to push hard. But knowing that you can get rewarded with points does incentivize to push as hard as you can in some cases, and even go on alternate strategies. So a trend that I've noticed behind Kerner is that we're seeing almost tandems, not in the same way that you saw in the early 2010s at restrictor plate tracks, but instead guys are separated by a few car lengths and almost benefiting from each other and battling each other. So Wineland and Grassi, Petrucco and Hammond, Cameron Stone and Dallas Pataska, these are just a couple of these tandems that we're seeing up front. And actually we have Hixenbauer getting in there on the outside of the top 10. He stands in P10 right now in the entry of 1.
So Morrison, Hixenbauer, a trio as opposed to a tandem, and it's working for some of these guys. You mentioned it, Trey. It's kind of just naturally separating into that, I guess, but you get one guy who can draft, and every once in a while he'll draft up to the car ahead, go for a pass, they'll switch positions, then the car behind will draft, and they'll keep leapfrogging over the course of a run. So I guess it's kind of natural that it would sort out that way. especially when, of course, you have open setups for these guys to adjust their cars and make them faster, hopefully. Is actually Morrison going to duck down to the pit lane, so that's going to leave Hixenbaugh and Myatt to fend for themselves, as Morrison going to be the first of the front runners to take to the safety of pit road. Kevin Steele actually has company from Cam Caldwell, and watching some of these guys further back in the 10th to 20th range, and this is one of the battles that was starting to get closer and closer and closer. Now Caldwell all over the back end of Steele, looking for what would be the 10th position currently as well. One car sideways out of two further back. You saw that top of your screen. They get that sorted out, and Steele has company to the inside. Caldwell looking low. He's going to draw even, maybe even pass him out of turn number 4 here. Caldwell has some speed here late in the run.
Yeah, you notice in the back end of Caldwell, it looks like that left, I believe that's the left end he's jacked up, so you got a little bit of damage. Got to see how that affects the race car a little bit. As now here comes 37 flying around the outside of the number 44 of Kevin Steele. He's making some moves out of that pit stop. He pitted a little bit earlier. I believe he's still a lap down. I'm trying to find him on timing and scoring right now. Yeah, he's way back in the field. He's about the third car a lap down, running 33rd. So that's just those new tires. He's already flown around to 12, and now he's making moves to try and get his lap back. The question now is still where you're going to find Eddie Kerner and everybody else. When are they going to pit? Kerner stays out this time by Eric Wineland, eggs off of 4. He's not going to pit. Wayne Grossi not too far behind him, so he's staying out. So we just saw a little bit of early pitters trying to get that out of the way and maybe try and create a little bit of an undercut, as now they're just going after each other. We talked about the fact that these cars haven't gone out that much. Because the thing about it is, if what we saw in the Discord last night, a lot of people were not happy, saying there's a lot of avoidable incidents that could have happened after preventing those cautions. So they kind of hammered in with each other, not from the admins down to the drivers, but just driver to driver. They said, hey, this is way too early in the race to be doing stuff like this. So they hammered into each other that we got to try and just get some clean laps in. And that's what we're seeing now, as what was about 4 cautions throughout right now between the beginning of the race to now at Kansas is green flag the entire time, as Wayne Grossi now finds himself in a pit lane as he's going to go down and take his first pit stop of the race. As now we see more green flag pit stops playing out here in stage 1.
Apologies there. Got my push talk enabled now. But yeah, definitely a pit stop here basically splits your stage in half here, but there's still a lot of risk involved because you could potentially go a lap down if you're not one of the lead cars here at Michigan Speedway. You want to say a pit stop takes probably about the length of a lap here. And as you said, Noah, about the fact that drivers are respecting each other, unlike last week where guys were incredibly aggressive and it just took out more than half the field before the race was over. Only half a dozen cars, or less than a half dozen cars, finished on the lead lap last week. But right now, we're in the middle of a pit cycle. 27 guys still standing on the lead lap. Only 3 guys are less than a lap down right now, such as newcomer Chris Wood. We have Mike Alio Jr. He's 11 laps down, and rounding out the field in 36 is Alan Huit. Alio Jr., excuse me there if that pronunciation was wrong, is the only person disconnected, along with Chris Wood. My apologies.
Oh, side by side, 3 wide actually into turn 3 where Myatt, that was Morrison on the bottom and Fields up top. Fields the slower lapped car, Morrison the faster car on new tires, and Myatt on some older tires here. He just got passed by Hixenbaugh, and that set all of that up, and Cameron Stone is in this battle as well, so a 3-way battle for position right here with Hixenbaugh, Stone, and Myatt. Myatt looking to go by Stone on the bottom side, he will, so Stone's car looking not so great right now. Towards the end of the run, definitely slowing down. He was looking pretty quick earlier on, and since then, he's just lost a lot of grip, it looks like, a lot of speed at the very least, as Myatt gives a big shove to Hixenbaugh down the back straightaway, and Stone going to fight back on the bottom side. He got a draft out of the corner, crossed him back up, and is now going to make the slide job work on Danny Myatt. Myatt's going to come in and pit.
Yeah, and that's just the thing that you talk about. As you see, is Mon also going to come down pit road as well. It's just a matter of how much the fall off affects each driver. For Hixenbaugh, it hasn't really done that much, but for Stone, it's done a lot. So just what we talked about at the pre-race, these new tire models and how they're affecting everybody. That's what's it's really punching the 57 hard. But if it's 63, he's already used to it. The 17, he overshoots a pit stall, so that's going to kill his run. So he goes not back one stall. He was still back. So that's just going to kill it. He's still in pit road. Now he gets the left side, the right side's jacked up. So that's going to kill his momentum that he had going, as we're only about halfway through this run. So now everything that he worked for up into that top 5 is gone. So you talk about the bad luck that hit him Charlotte and Kansas hits him here too. And now instead of 4 tires, he goes for 2 tires. Like, hey, I just want to get my lap, keep my lap, and get back on the racetrack. As now he's gonna come back out. He's still gonna go a lap down. And your top 2 right now is Wineland and Hixenbaugh. So it's the same people you usually see running up in the top 2 for most of the race. Now they find themselves 1-2, still having to pit, as now they head down the back straightaway. So the question is, when are they going to pit, and if they're going to be able to pull a pit strategy move to keep themselves in front of that 98 car.
In the lease for that number 17 machine of Hammond, he has 2 guaranteed cautions here to the end to get off strategy. So that's going to help him potentially get back in the race here if he can just keep his nose clean. So right now we're looking at that 63 of Hixenbaugh, and he is defending on, is that the 27 of Petrucco? No, I believe that is 57, yes, 57 of Stone here, and that's currently for second place position, but of course these guys haven't pit. Eddie Kerner is already making his way pretty steadily up the leaderboard. He was able to not go a lap down whatsoever, and he is the highest car on the leaderboard that has pitted. He currently stands 29.5 seconds off of that leader. Number 31 machine of Eric Wineland.
A new fast lap out of Eddie Kerner as well. He sets a 38.411. Myatt goes on by Hixenbaugh. These guys are on the same tire, so that's a pass for position. Sorry, no, my bad. Ooh, let me correct myself. Myatt just pitted with Petrucco. Myatt pitted after losing that spot to Stone. So Stone, the driver for position there with Hixenbaugh. I did make a big mess up there, but Wineland continues to lead. Hixenbaugh second, Stone third. Brian Mabry now is up into 4th position. Haven't talked about him at all yet tonight. He started 9th and quickly fell out of the top 10, but the Hillhaven number 3 starting to recover. Granted, this is a long run where he hasn't pitted just yet, but looking relatively decent up into 4th. He had to be in a decent spot to begin with, I feel like, so not so bad here for the number 3. Josh Coppernoll, his teammate, actually just behind him. So the 2 Hillhaven cars, or 2 of them rather, the 3 and 42, opting for about the same strategy, staying out on this long run, see if maybe they can catch a caution.
Yeah, nice little bit of a fix-up there. It was a big hex moment for you there. I'm glad you're able to pick it back up. Eric Wineland still has yet to take his pit stop. He stayed about 5 to 8 laps longer than what the actual leaders have. He flies off into turn number 3. Words, people. He flies off into turn number 3 as the man out of Pennsylvania, still holding on to. He's going to stay out again. So he's approaching about 10 laps older tires. So that's really going to be interesting to see, because we're talking about that fight he had going on with the 7 car, and if that's going to kill his tires or not. Well, so far the answer is no. He's still holding on to it pretty well. I think his biggest thing he's trying to do right now maybe is stay out there, bite his time as much as he can, hope a caution comes out, and stick all those people a lap down. Because think about the people who's going to be stuck a lap down if that happens. Wayne Grossi being one of the people. Actually, no, he got his lap back. He's the last car on the lead lap. Eddie Kerner is another person. I don't even know where he is on time and scoring right now, but he's mixed in there with the mid-pack of people who did pit. So it's very interesting to see this pit strategy come out so far out of Eric Wineland. That's how he's going to go 3 wide on the outside of the 12 and the 22 as they try to get their laps back. So a lot of things happening right now for that 31 car as he still stays out.
That number 98 machine seems to have disappeared from the top of the leaderboard here, which begs the question perhaps, oh no, never mind, he's currently sitting in that P5 position right now. But, Wineland, I would have to think he's probably hoping for a yellow. Just knowing that superior pace of the number 98 machine, he probably thinks that is his only shot at potentially claiming a stage win and claiming a playoff point as we head into the playoffs. We're only about 11 races outside of that. Wineland comes into tonight with 9 playoff points, and he has 1 victory so far on the season. He's one of the better performing guys, as we've, noted so far this season.
So Hixenbaugh remains in second place behind the leading Wineland, and these guys yet to come. No, Wineland just came in, rather. I was going to say they've yet to come in, but Wineland finally makes his trip down the pit lane. He'll come in for 4 tires and fuel, I would imagine. With just under 20 laps to go to the first stage break, Hixenbaugh then assumes the race lead. Eddie Kerner, I believe, is in second. He looks to be, second place. So those 2 Hillhaven cars who had stayed out for such a long time finally come down the pit lane, and now Eddie Kerner back up into second place, and he has already completed his pit stop. We'll see how this all works out for him. Of course, he's going to cycle out into the lead for sure once Hixenbaugh pits, because he's only 7 seconds back. But it's a matter of if anybody can come back at him, if anybody can make a stab back in that 98 car. I think the answer is going to be no. I will say Pataska has pitted, and he's actually picked up a lot of spots so far. He is up into what will cycle out to be about third place behind Kerner and Grassi. So Dallas Pataska looking pretty good right now. He should cycle out into third, and I did not expect that at all.
Yeah, my big question with the 63 car is if he was trying to play maybe a little bit of a strategy game, because I note about the fact that he wasn't really making that many moves in the early part of this race, and seeing if he might be able to try to play the long game, which I think might be the case. He's staying under the lap. He's been able to make this run last 44 laps, and he has a pretty decent sized gap over Eric Kerner. So Eddie Kerner, I made a mistake last week. I'm trying to fix that. Eddie Kerner, he exits off of turn number 4 right now is where you find the 98 car. Hexenbaugh flying off into turn number 1. So you just got to wonder if Hexenbaugh was biding his time because he knew, hey, I'm all the way back here in 25th. I'm not going to be able to go out here and make enough moves to get up in the top 10 by lap 20. So let's go play the long strategy and see how long I can make this work. And right now, that's what he's doing. He's been able to stay out 44 laps on these tires and manage to fuel that much. So you got to wonder if he's going to try and stay out for the remaining about 16 to 17 to try and get at the end of the stage to win this thing.
Same strategy we thought the 31 was going to play. Stay out as long as humanely possible and try to put yourself in that only scenario where you might be able to pick up a stage win. Just knowing that, he comes back from, I believe, the 26th position here today, and he's doing his job right now, playing some sort of strategy, the strategy that's going to potentially get him playoff points in a championship format that really rewards guys that are able to go out there and pick up playoff points. And it's getting to the point where him coming into tonight stands with 47 playoff points, which is 38 more than Eric Wineland, who has the second most.
Well, in all reality, I expect Hexenbaugh to drop at least to the tail end of the lead lap, if not at least one lap down. He's going to lose a lot of time considering he's probably at this point waiting for Kerner to catch up to him, and they're on the same straightaway. The gap is only 2.8, 2.7 seconds between the 98 and the 63, and Kerner is coming quick. Of course, he's on newer tires, not exactly new, about 10, 11 lap old tires for the driver of the 98, and he is catching Hexenbaugh rather quickly. I expect Hexenbaugh to probably drop down to about the 20th place position. This can't be a shot at stage points at this point. I don't think you can go all 60 laps, of course. I think he's going to be pitting here in the next 5 or so, if even that long. So Hexenbaugh, he's going to have to pit here soon. I doubt he can go all the way to the end of the stage. If he can somehow save that much fuel, it will be rather impressive, especially considering at this point you got to start thinking about when your tire is going to be blowing out. You've run almost 50 laps now around Michigan International Speedway. That's almost 100 miles on that right front, and it's certainly going to wear out quick.
Yeah, but then the question comes down if he's even focused on wanting to get these stage points, if he's trying to play a long game and think big picture. It's like, hey, I don't care about the stage points. I already have enough wins to get me safe in there. But you know what else would be really nice? Getting a new trophy in that trophy case as he heads off of turn number 4 right now. Kerner has just closed down the gap. He is reeling him in as fast as he can, like a little tadpole on a fishing hook, if that even makes sense, as they come down to complete lap number 47. So you gotta wonder if Hexenbaugh's thinking, hey, I might not be able to get a stage win, but let's go out and put another sticker down at the side of this car near the seat post. He's still out there. He's still holding on to it, as now, they almost make contact as they exit off of turn number 2. Kerner having to go to the outside, Hexenbaugh having to stay on the bottom. He falls back to second, but keep this in mind as well. Grassi's 14 seconds back in third, so even if he gets past, he might be able to hold on to keep that second position, as now he slows down even more off turn number 2, and now here he is. He believes he's on the brake. Yes, he is. Here comes the 63 down the pit road. So now the question is, is he gonna file back out as he exits? Got to get under 55 to not speed that car. He does so, and now he makes the long drive down pit road. He has an early pit box because of the fact that he decided to not set a qualifying lap. So he's gonna get his 4 tires in that 63 car, that Casey's General Can-Am Chevrolet. As the right sides go up, Eddie Kerner update on where he is on the racetrack as he falls on the running order. He's midway down the back straightaway as now he retakes the race lead. Wayne Grassi is able to undercut Wineland. He takes over the second spot as Wineland is in third. Dallas Patasco, who had a really good run at Kansas before that blown motor, he finds himself running in 4th, and Richard Petrucco finds himself in 5th. So really big moves being played out early on in the race, but now you got to wonder what's the strategy game for that 63 car and what he may be able to do in stage 3.
Honestly, I think the only thing he could do there was hope for a yellow flag. It's just due to the place where he started on track, and he wasn't able to get a quality qualifying attempt in, and that put him very deep into the field. What I'm concerned about is as he comes back out onto the track is that he comes out right behind leader Eddie Kerner. So he's going to be on fresher tires, but he could be in a situation where if we get a caution flag here, he may not be able to make up that lap back, despite the fact that he's on fresher tires. I think he's proven, by being able to drive into the top 10 in the first stage that he has the pace that he needs to potentially be a contender today. But he's just not in the best position here early on. And yeah, that 98 of Kerner has built quite the impressive gap. As you said, Noah, he's currently at 15 seconds over Grassi. Grassi and Wineland, what do you guess? They're separated by less than half a second.
So Eddie Kerner now rolling out of turn number 2. When we saw Hixenbaugh there exit the pit lane behind him, and he's already catching Kerner, he should unlap himself with relative ease. I think that's going to be the easiest pass you ever could get on Eddie Kerner. At least with him still being on the racetrack as opposed to being in the pit lane. 3 wide go these guys trying to get their laps back, or, well, not lose too much time. Rather, it would, I guess, be the 37.04's plan. But Hixenbaugh coming on the inside of both of them, passing them, and now almost alongside with Kerner. And he's going to try and get that lap back into 1 and 2. Should do it pretty easily. Roll that bottom side to clear the Neonism number 98. He easily does so, and Hixenbaugh back on the lead lap. But you guys talking about the long con here, if you will, for the race win. I just don't know if Hixenbaugh is in a good spot at all to do that. He did cycle into 14th, which isn't terrible, considering he pitted from around the 10th place position. Or sorry, once pit cycle started, he was about the 10th place position, or in around there. I just don't know that he's in a good spot at all to come back and win this thing, unless he does something drastically different in stage number 2. If he does anything like he just did, I don't know how he's going to set himself up for a decent position going into the final stage, because then he's just got to work at it, and he's playing from defense, really, at first. He's playing from the back of the field, and you never want to play from the back of the field going into that final stage. You never want to at all. So Hixenbaugh started 28th position, and I mean, he's up into 14th right now. He's not too far back of Noel. Actually, he just passed Noel, so he's not too far back of Probst. Then for 12th now, he's into 13th, but I still just, big picture, I don't know where I see him finishing. He might get a few spots. He'll probably get another 2 or 3 going into the stage. You probably get that stage point back, but realistically, if he plays the same strategy in stage number 2, I'm not sure what to make of the run for the 63 car yet.
Yeah, but also got to keep this in mind. He's still in the lead lap, so even if he's still in the lead lap, so he's still good to make it in stage number 2. He's set himself up really well, because keep this in mind, he stayed out about 10 to 15 laps longer than anybody at the field did. So he's in the best spot for stage number 2, depending on if they decide to pit or not. Because even then, regardless, he has the freshest tires, because he doesn't have to worry about going a lap down, because he is just absolutely pulling away from that 98 car. Doesn't have to worry about going a lap down as they approach about 6 laps to go to round out stage number 1. So he set him up very well for the end of this, going to stage 2, and even towards stage number 3, depending on when he decides to pit, because he started 25th, and he's already, no, not even 25th, he started 28th, and he's in 15th, so he's still in a really good spot for stage number 2. So he's going to be very well set up to try and do even better at the beginning of stage 2 and even to stage 3 with that strategy he just pulled, because that really helped him pretty good for the end of for the entire rest of this race.
He's proven so far that he has the pace to get up there and contend. It's just a matter of getting in a position where he's able to contend. So we have about 6 laps left in the stage here, and we're currently watching. Sorry, can't pick up the numbers there, but we're almost going 3 wide there. It's Petrucco ahead of this group of 3 cars right now. Petrucco is currently representing the P5 position, and he has a hornet's nest behind him, including that number 3 machine, although the 3 is a lap down right now of Mabry.
Yeah, Mabry and Coppernoll here are 1 lap down to Danny Myatt in the number 20. Danny Myatt just lost that 5th place spot to Petrucco. Pataska is ahead of these guys by some decent margin, about 6 seconds. Your whole top 5 very spread out. Then you have some battles further back here in the top 10, and one of those actually going to be, let's see, Matthew Woods and Cam Caldwell. They're not too far apart. The University of Kentucky, number 48, and the number 12 Chevrolet Camaro. This could be a decent little battle for a couple of stage points. Of course, Caldwell could better his point total here on the evening, at least, by passing that 48. Could literally double what he's going to be earning here from stage number 1. He has a few more laps to do it, and we're going to go on board with him here and see if he can get up to that 48, maybe make that, maybe make that pass for ninth position. Ahead of him then would be Christopher Hammond, and this is actually a 3-car battle now. Hammond starting to lose some time. Sorry, Myatt, rather. Hammond just got past him, rather.
No, but keep that in mind, this isn't a 3-car battle, it's a 4-car battle, because right behind them, on that onboard, is Hixenbaugh. He's proved himself up into the 11th spot. He's one position out of the a stage point. He's all the way down below the white line. He is going to sail past these guys, and he makes a 3 wide now on the apron at the turn number 3. I'm surprised he's able to hold us now. He flies around Denny Maya. Now he finds himself in the 10th spot. He's going to take over the 9th spot and even 8th spot. So you guys are talking about the fact that he kind of ruined his stage 1. No, he did not, because he's still going to get stage points out of this. So this is an incredibly weird strategy, but he knew that he wasn't going to be able to get that stage win, so he's going to go out and take the stage point and playing out a crazy strategy out of his butt, and now he finds himself running up in the 8th spot and almost a 7th.
You know, we doubted that 63, me especially, but, you know, he's absolutely proving us wrong right now. This is probably, if he would have pitted early, right around where he would have ended up. So it wasn't really that bad of a call to decide to stay out late, because what it did is potentially get him off strategy if we did get a yellow flag, and put him right up there with that 98 of Kerner. So when he came out of pit road, he was sitting P17, and already he's moved up 10 spots to that P8 position, I believe, with that pass. Oh, no, he's P7 now. Oh, we're having a little bit of confusion with timing and scoring. He's about P8 right now.
And he's looking for 7th. He's going to be right on Hamad here into turn 1. Sorry, Hammond. Christopher Hammond, number 17. And I'll eat some words here. I didn't think Hixenbaugh was going to be able to recover this much, but I guess when you're that much faster than all of these cars, granted, right now it's because of the tires, but I really think he's just got way more pace than all those guys he just passed, regardless of the difference in tires. So Hixenbaugh, just a fast number 63 tonight. It didn't qualify, so we have no clue how his qualifying setup would have placed him in the field. But, I mean, he's still doing really, really well. Definitely has his usual speed here. Just didn't show it in that qualifying run because it didn't exist. So Eddie Kerner, meanwhile, is going to cross the start-finish line. He's going to win stage number 1, almost a full lap ahead of Hixenbaugh. So we should get the caution flag here in a moment. But Wineland is going to come across. He's just now exiting turn number 2. Wineland in second place. He passed Grassy straight up for that second position in stage number 1, rather. Wayne Grassy exiting turn 4. He'll take third. Pataska now going to exit turn number 4 for fourth. These guys all earning quite a few stage points here in stage number 1, Noah.
Yeah, and as you see, as they cross off of turn number 4, Matthew Woods is going to round out and finish 10th. I'm trying to fight with Caldwell going into 3, as now the caution finally comes out, so that 48 UK Chevrolet is now going to take over the 10th spot, as now they complete lap 62. That's just how far ahead of far behind they are of Eddie Kerner. The man out of Illinois finds himself with the race lead into turn number 1, and now we're on lap 62. So a little bit more further ahead than what they would have liked, as now Kerner's going to back off and let that pace car catch up, as now the rest of the field is still going to slam on the gas and try to catch up to him, because now the question is, when are the pits going to open and how long we're going to be under caution for, and then it just lines up with the big question marks of who's going to pit, who's not going to pit, who's going to do this, who's going to do that. So a lot of different strategies are going to play out here, as keep this in mind, we just won a full stage under green. How about that?
Tommy Amos, after a solid run last week at Kansas, he does disconnect from the server, unfortunately. But no, we had an absolutely excellent stage. Very happy to see it go all the way to the end there. 60 laps of green flag action, and it was pretty exciting. We had bit strategy. We had a lot of comers and goers. It was pretty fun to see guys with, qualifying strategies, start up front and fall to the back. But then we've also had guys like Kerner, Patrico, and Stone stay up front after a pretty solid qualifying run. Then you have Hixenbaugh climbing from the mid-20s all the way into the top 10 on a very alternate strategy. Pit road's open, and Kerner leads them down.
So we'll watch through these pit stops and step away for a moment. It looks like we aren't going to be able to dial up Eddie Kerner for your Stage 1 win. But regardless, congratulations to the driver of the 98. You're, well, not quite a third of the way there, but I mean, that 98 just looks bad fast, as is per usual, apparently. Only his second start here in the Galaxy Cup Series, but already making quick work here of Michigan International Speedway. We'll be right back to you with continuing coverage of the Corrugated Cardboard 400 presented by ABillion Wood Projects, LLC. We'll be right back from Michigan International Speedway. Welcome back, race fans, to Michigan International Speedway. A quick yellow, it seems. Very quick caution here for the drivers in the Galaxy Cup Series. And Eddie Kerner exits the pit lane first. He holds on to his race lead. Wineland second. Pataska third, up over Grassy. Bryson Hixenbaugh, we doubted him in stage number 1. He's restarting 5th. I think he pulled the perfect strategy, actually. We were questioning it. He ended up pulling exactly what he needed to do, and he restarts from 5th position. The field coming into the Geico restart zone. They're off and away. Green flag flies for Eddie Kerner, and they're back off away at it. Eddie leads into turn number 1. He got a big jump that time over Wineland and Pataska. They go side by side into 1.
Kerner going to jump off to a really sizable lead going into the first corner. Pataska going to wash up a little bit into the 31 of Wineland as they go off of turn number 2. Hixenbaugh, he talked about with that strategy he pulled. He finds himself running in the 4th position. He's looking up to get back into 2nd as Grassi and Stone fight off for the position behind them. And in the 17 of Hammond, he's been able to rebound after a little bit of a pit strategy incident during his first green flag pit stop, as now they round off of turn number 4. The 23 and the 31 still side by side as they come across the start finish line, as Hixenbaugh maybe trying to take a move to see if he can go through the middle. No, Wineland's going to clear the 23 as they head off into turn number 1, as now Hixenbaugh trying to do what he can to get back up to the 3rd as the big 3 trying to make themselves known again at the beginning of stage number 2.
63 is definitely in the catbird seat because those 2nd and 3rd place cars look like they're going to battle quite a bit here for that 2nd place position. Wineland, he's been pretty commonplace up front the last 2 rounds. Pataska had some struggles last week at Kansas after a pretty strong run, but nice to see him back up running in that podium position. Going to be exciting to see if the 63 can get clear and potentially make a run at that 98 right now, because so far the rest of the field hasn't quite had what he's had under the hood.
So as the field speeds off into 1 and 2, mostly single file for your front runners. Everybody pretty spread out for the most part. A few gaggles further back, actually. We'll try and go back to some of those. I see Darius Higginbottom, or sorry, Damaris Higginbottom, rather, in the thick of it. He is just ahead of these guys. Mabry and Goza actually go side by side down the back straightaway, and Mabry, I think, is still a lap down. Oh, he's 3 laps down, so Mabry had big issues in stage number 1. He was in the top 10 at one point and has since fallen way back. He's giving way to all of these drivers. We've got Mobley battling with Fuge, it looks like. No, sorry, he gets ahead of Gullett. The next car up ahead of him will be Fuge, though. Jason Taylor, who we talked about earlier on, he's back in this mess as well. This is all for about the 22nd position on the racetrack, and they are just going at it.
Absolutely. Hixenbaugh finds himself still in the 3rd spot. You talk about that fight going on back there with those 3 as they head down the back straightaway. Grassi and Wineland have now found each other again as they're fighting on for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th spot. As Hixenbaugh right in front of them. Eddie Kerner, as we talked about, he was able to get off to a really good start and take away with the lead. He's trying to do that again, but not so fast. And we wait to see later in the run is where he seems to really get a lot of his speed. So he has that long car set up really well as they try to make it to lap 120, which is where the end of stage 2 is going to be. So again, it's a little bit of this whole 60 lap, and then run it to the very end of this race as they fly off of turn number 2. Dallas Pataska hasn't really been able to open up a gap on the 3 car, as now the 7 car is really trying to do what he can during the turn number 3 as they're all over each other trying to get for position, as Eddie Kerner is just having a little bit of fun with Sunday Drive, but no, not really, as he's not been able to close the gap or open up the gap as the gap has closed a little bit to Pataska, as now we might have a fight going on for the race lead, as now Hixenbaugh is going to take over 3rd spot for the 23 from the 7 car, my bad, as they head up into turn number 1.
The current closest battle on track looks to be between the 63 and the 7, Grassi and Hixenbaugh. So Hixenbaugh, he has a lot of trouble here in that number 7 machine. Weren't initially expecting that, especially based off of last week's pace. But it's a pretty fun battle to see that 63, again, being a king of the outside line, just as he was at Kansas last week, although that 31 is contending. Andrew, you did note the battle around that 20th position. There's only 16 cars on the lead lap right now, and Preston McRae in that number 53 machine stands as the lucky dog, and he holds the position right now very closely, I believe, over that number 36 of, looking at time and scoring, Dakota Knoll sits P18. Excuse me, 16 cars on the lead lap right now.
So McRae and Knoll battling for your lucky dog position as the guys at the front of the field continue on. Pataska's actually all over Kerner. This is the closest I think we've seen Kerner get challenged for the race lead since he took it from everybody at the start of stage number 1. Pataska has used that draft, that slipstream, to get right up to the back end almost of the 98 of Kerner. Falls back a little bit out of 4. That 98 is just so fast, apparently. He's just walking away from the field. Even when these guys start to make gains, he just turns up the wick and drives back away a little bit. So Kerner looking really, really quick. It's no surprise after the whooping he put on the field last week at Kansas, but still just, I'm amazed at how fast that car truly is. Grassi in third, then you have Hicksenbaugh and Wineland battling, going at it now into turn number 3. Wineland behind the driver that we didn't think was even going to recover for stage points, who is now sitting in 4th.
Yeah, Eddie Kerner is starting to open up that gap again we talked about. It takes a little bit of a couple laps for him to get into the groove, and then he just starts running away lap by lap by lap. As now the 23 and the 7 car still nose to tail on each other. They go off into turn number 1. It's Hicksenbaugh and trying to see if my results are kind of blocking it up. As now with Wineland are now still fighting on for the 3rd spot as Hammond. He's not too far behind back there in the 17 car. So a really big tussle going on there in the top 5. You see the mid pack going on there of Zach Probst in that 48 car as they head off of the back straightaway of Matthew Woods. A big fight between Probst and Woods as they head off into 3. They're side by side now. Probst is going to clear him. Morrison, we talked about, he was the earliest person to pit. He's really wearing his pit strategy. It's happened at Charlotte and happened at Kansas, and now it's happening here too. He's trying to rebuild himself after running up as high as 2nd in this race, as now he finds himself running back there at around the 9th or 8th position, actually back there at 12th. So right now he's holding on to the last stage point with Cameron Stone all over his back bumpers and off into turn 1, and here comes Kevin Steele, the outside pole sitter of this race. He finds himself running at 11th, so a really big gaggle of cars going on there around the back half fighting for these last stage points.
Morrison was higher up the leaderboard early in the race, but, you know, he has a long way to go on the stage, a long way to go in the race. We have about 250 miles of action here yet from Michigan Speedway. Want to talk a little bit about Zach Probst a little bit. He's definitely a man on a mission because he came into tonight now the first car outside of the playoff picture after entering about 12 points up on Cody Bird earlier at Kansas last week. So he's now 8 points back of that number 64 machine in Bird, and we don't see Bird in the top 20 right now tonight. So stage points open the opportunity for him to pretty easily get back into that playoff picture, along with his gross total of points that he could earn at the end of the night.
I heard something a bit concerning there from the 162 machine of Zach Probst. He was sliding those Goodyear tires through turns 1 and 2, and that's the opposite of what you want to do, especially with this new tire model on these NASCAR Cup cars. You've really got to protect them and keep from scrubbing rubber. I talked about it at the top of the show. He was sideways, and you heard the tires squeal on the broadcast, and he was definitely sending it a bit there through 1 and 2. It'll work for a little while, but it won't work over the course of the run, and Cameron Stone, I think, is definitely one of those other drivers who's really quick here in the short run, or at least he's shorter a mid-run. There we go, but he fell way off towards the end of the run before those pit stops last time around. So Stone and Probst look quick now, but I think they're both going to head in the wrong direction later on. We'll have to wait and see. They could prove me wrong, absolutely, especially if Stone took a couple swings at that number 57 car to make it a little bit quicker later on in this stage. Jeremy Morrison, though, hanging on to that position for now.
My eyes right now, we're on the 2nd spot right now. There is a dogfight going on with those 5 cars with Grassi, Hammond, Pataska, Wineland, and Hicksenbaugh. Hicksenbaugh just kind of sitting in the back, just watching this go out. It's like, hey, if these guys wreck, I'm just going to let it happen. But those 4 drivers have been going 2 by 2 into turn number 1 the last 2 laps all over each other. Pataska on the top side, Wineland on the top side with them, Hammond and Grassi on the bottom as they've been all over each other. You'll see what happens. They'll get a little bit of a gag up as, oh, now it breaks away as you pan over to them. But coming off of turn number 4, they just really check up, and now they're still all over each other. These guys are all over the bumpers of each other, and I'm just wondering if a wreck's going to happen, because these are some of the most aggressive drivers that you're seeing on the track right now, and they are going all after each other trying to make moves to get that 2nd spot. And that's just letting that 98 car of Eddie Kerner just run away with the gap. There's no contact between the 7 and 31. They don't really turn anybody around, but that's going to hold up the 31, and now the 17 has to back off to keep it off the wall, as Pataska is going to go down all the way to the middle of the racetrack with them as Cam Caldwell gets loose off of turn number 2, and you see at the top of your screen, he holds on to as we stay green as it holds off into turn number 3. Hicksenbaugh still just sitting in the back watching this all play out, wondering what are these guys doing. It's only lap 78.
Hicksonville, I think, is, keeping his tires pretty clean and grippy here by not getting into side-by-side battles, because that's when you have to make a lot more minute movements in the wheel, and that's when you get a lot more tire wear. But the 7 and 31 are, making sure fans get their money's worth week in and week out here, and it's only been a couple races since they've been together in the series, but they've been pretty consistently, showing pace outside of, the number 98 machine of Eddie Kerner. You take Eddie Kerner out of the picture in here, and we have a 5-car battle for the lead. As now that 63 is now looking to try to get past Pataska. We enter turn 3. They're side-by-side, 63 on the inside, as we also have a battle for that P2 spot.
Pataska looked so good earlier in this stage, but it's starting to fall back as laps wind down. Not even 20 laps. We're actually coming to take lap number 80. So yeah, the 20th lap of the stage. Granted, some of those were under caution. Now Wineland and Grassy side by side. Wineland had him cleared through 3 and 4. Grassy fought back around the top, and now Wineland back on the offensive as Grassy's going to defend down the back straightaway here. And that 7 just looks really good. Looks like he can really battle. Wineland, I think, is quicker as a single car, but Grassy can definitely race him back and put the fight right back to the driver out of, I believe it was Illinois there for Wineland. Let's double check. Pennsylvania. How could I mistake that? As Hammond is all over the back of him. Hammond, again, one of those really surprising runs so far. The New Yorker looking really, really good here through now the second stage. That Castrol GTX Chevrolet looking great.
Yeah, and just think about the turnaround that Caldwell had. We talked about he got loose going, but that's not Caldwell, that's Pataska. They have such similar cars. I got confused there for a sec. Yeah, those two are still just all over the back of each other. They kind of single-fouled out as here comes Wineland and Grassi again. Those two just won't stop fighting each other. Going for the lead. Oh, we almost made contact. We almost doored each other going down the straightaway. It's now the 17 car over the back bumper. He's saying, oh, you want to back out of that? No, you're up on the top side. You're going to use that top side. As he gives him a big old shove going to turn number 3 to try to clear him. He's going to watch all the way up to the wall. He goes onto it and almost takes out the 7. What a save by the 631 as he holds on to it. But still, that's just letting that 98 car pull out the guy. We're talking about the man from Illinois. I think you're thinking about the 98 car, the pride of Illinois, as he's still holding on to a 4-second lead, but still just an absolutely incredible fight going on here in the early portion of stage number 2 by these 5 drivers.
You may have been able to fit a piece of paper between the number 31 and that safer barrier off of the exit of 4 there. Amazing to see the 31 hang on there, and it's absolutely incredible to see these guys continue to go side by side as if this is where the last stage of the race, as if this were 10 to go and we're battling for the win here. And I'd just like to again make note of that 63. He's really not making a statement here by not going side by side like these other 4 are, and I think it's going to pay dividends here as he's going to have fresher stuff as we get longer and longer into the run here. I should also make note that we're getting it to the point where we can make it to the end of the stage on one pit stop here. Sunoco Fuel put another pair of Goodyear tires on. You can make it to the end.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, or will be interesting to see rather, what these guys do as far as strategy calls further on. Pataska goes to the outside of Hammond, though. Hammond's going to lose that 4th spot, it looks like. Fall back into 5th as the battle goes back at it. For 2nd place, Wineland clears Grassy that time through 3 and 4. Grassy doesn't have help, though. This little pack is split up, so Grassy's on his own to try and get back to the outside of Wineland. He'll do just that, and side drafting down the front stretch. Wineland tried to pop back up the racetrack to get an arc into turn 1. Couldn't quite do it because the 7 was there. So the 7 definitely defending as hard as he can right now. Going on the offensive, rather, as they, sideways. I don't know what that sound was, but that was something. That was excitement out of me anyways. It's Grassy was just sideways out of 2. And these guys are going back at it for 4th. Pataska has company from Hammond and Hicksonbach.
Yeah, those two have really been putting on quite a show. All 5 of those guys, you see, it kind of spread out there. They say, okay, we've let this have fun enough, but we need to try and open up this gap a little bit and run a little cleaner, as they've able to actually open up a pretty sizable gap over the people behind them, as they got about a 4-second gap between Hicksonbach and Caldwell at the time being as they go off into turn number 1. So it's still just a really incredible job these guys have done, because while they've been running really aggressive, they're able to keep it clean, which is what we about the exact opposite of what we saw at Kansas because of how these guys were running. They run so aggressive and they couldn't hold on to it. It just ended up causing caution after caution after caution. But still, the only caution that we've had so far is the stage caution. And other than that, it's been clean racing all day. And even still, we've had such an incredible clean run. We've able to just run so quickly through this race. We're already on lap 85. We're close to about 20 laps to go in this stage alone, so we're already having to talk about what the pit stop cycle is going to be. And we're already 20 laps into stage number 2.
So Hicksonball has been stalking his prey, and it looks like he's finally making the attack. He makes the pass on the 23 machine of Dallas Pataska. Pataska is going to continue to challenge, but I think that 63's been saving his equipment pretty well, and he's going to hang on to that P4 position for now. Excuse me, P5, last car outside the top 5. But no, I like the point you made about how these guys have been inadvertently working together to break away from that 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pack. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow them, more variability in what they want to do to pit. It could let them pit a bit earlier, knowing that, they have a little bit of space here. So even if they use up their stuff, during the run and by pitting early, and therefore having to go, longer on their second run here in the stage, it essentially, the point I'm trying to hit home is the fact that, building space early in a stage is going to give you more opportunity.
Well, we're nearing halfway in stage number 2, and this is when that pit window started to open up last time around, but I think these guys learned that you don't want to undercut too early. I think those guys who did definitely lost some time there towards the end of the first stage, so we'll probably see these guys extend their runs just a little bit, just a few laps. I'll start to keep an eye out on when these guys start to come in, but I haven't seen a single car pit aside from Jacob Greeter, who is some 2 laps down right now in 25th. Let's see, Cody Bird also pitted 7 laps ago. So Greeter pitted 1 lap ago, Bird 7, and other than that, I haven't seen anybody pit in the top 30 yet. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye for who does make the first trip down the pit lane. But side by side go Wineland and Grassy into 3 and 4 again. Grassy this time takes that spot back from Wineland, and Wineland looks to cross him back up on the bottom side. I think he's pitting. Well, Eric Wineland, the first to come down the pit lane, rather early as well, gets that car barely woed down for that yellow cone, and he's going to make his pit stop.
Yeah, you got to wonder how much those tires got chewed off during the most portion of that second stage because of how much they were fighting. This is around the time that you're going to see these guys start to make their pit stops because it's just around that time. We're about halfway through the stage, and now he's going to try and say, okay, we're going to try and see what we can do. Maybe pull an undercut and get some more stage points out here. Hold on a second, or maybe go after Eddie Kerner, because now the question is where Eddie Kerner is going to file out. And when he decides to pit, he's going to stay out. That's going to put the 31 car lap down as he screams on the front straightaway to complete lap number 89, now to lap 90, as we're approaching the 100 to go mark of this entire race. He still holds on to a 6-second lead. He's really up in the gap. You see Pataska and Hammond now fighting side by side, tooth and nail, for that position as they head off into turn number 1. That is for the 3rd spot. That Crashel GTX Chevrolet up on the top side, that 23 car down on the bottom, that gray, black, and red machine as they come off to turn number 2. As always, he's going to open up the gap, so moving 17 up to 3rd place. He's had an incredible run here today after the disappointing 2 weeks. So he finds himself with a really good run as he goes off into turn number 3. As now the question is, we're going to see where the caution, where the field goes out. Now we have a caution. We have a caution on the racetrack to see where that happened.
Unfortunately for that number 31 machine of Wineland, one of the first, lead cars to be able to come down pit road, that's going to put him a lap down. So he's probably going to get that wave round, but that's still going to put him at the tail end of the longest line of the restart. So someone got loose off of number 2. That's Zach Probst. We talked about Probst a little bit ago.
He didn't get loose. He got turned.
Looks to be the case. Does come into contact with that inside safer barrier. It's tough for him because he came into tonight looking to take back that P16 spot and get into the playoff.
So we'll go from the blimp and see what happens to Zach Probst here. Watch the number 162 outside of the racetrack of the University of Kentucky, number 48 of Matthew Woods. These two have been going at it for a better part of like 40, 50 laps. And, well, he did get loose, but then he got turned. I think he just kind of came off the wall a little bit, and the 48 was simply there. Ends up sending the 162 around, and that's going to probably do it, at least for his run towards the front of the field. I'm not so sure he's going to be able to come back from this one, because that's a lot of rear-end damage. So the new damage model on iRacing, I've heard several complaints from some drivers just these last few days that body panels fall off far too easily. And, well, the whole rear fascia of the 162 is gone after simply getting turned. I mean, it's hanging on by a thread is what I should say. And the nose is completely crunched in. That said, it does seem a bit easier to retain your speed with some damage. So it's a matter of how much that aero damage affects him over the course of this next little run. Green flag pit stops. Front of the field pit stops underway as Kerner is going to leave before anybody. That's going to be Hammond taking over second spot. And is that a strategy move? No, sorry, Quickie Yellow's throwing in some lap cars pitting with the rest of these guys. I thought the 04 was full position. He is not. So Wayne Grassi exits third, Pataska fourth. Matthew Woods actually exits fifth.
Yeah, it's a very interesting strategy call by a lot of these guys out to see. And they're thinking, oh, there's about 10 laps here. I can only need about 2 tires. So just go out there, get some stage points, and then come back in under caution and go restart from again. As a 31 car, I believe he's going to get the lucky dog for that position. That's really going to kill him after the run he's had. As now he's on the radio, they're trying to figure out, hey, what do I do? So yes, he is lucky dog for a fact. So he's going to be able to go around and get his lap back and push the restart button. But the issue with the 162 that you mostly saw is he just washed up to the top side, and that's really killed a lot of drivers in real life. You get up that top side, you're all the way up in the marbles out of no man's land, and you come out the corner, he's got a little bit loose, and he just was able to get a little bit loose. The 48 car didn't know, and he just was able to make contact, and that spun him around. And like you talk about, the damage is just weird. The fact that he had his back bumper tore off, not enough to where his cleat tore off, but the entire lap that he went around, it was just bouncing off that concrete like a pogo stick. So it just absolutely destroyed that back end. Now the question is, how much is that going to affect the handling on his car? Because depending on if they decide just to tear off that bumper under pit road, that's just going to make the thing handle like a late model because of how much the fact that there's really no rear downforce in that back end, or besides the giant left-hand spoiler they got. So it's going to be very interesting to see what that car handles like in the rest of this race. So keep an eye on him, because you might see him spin a little bit more depending on how they decided to fix that car.
I'm taking a look at the 162 now. He's still down on pit road, and I wonder if it's because of the new damage model that he's still down pit road, because what I've noticed in my limited experience so far with this new damage model is that lighter damage tends to take longer for a repair time than on the previous damage model on the NASCAR Cup car. I was in incidents that probably would have taken like 30 seconds to repair all of the optional damage, but instead it took about 2 minutes to repair all the optional damage in an invitational race last night. So that 162 better hurry up, because he's probably not going to catch up with the leaders here. As we're entering turns 3 and 4 here for a restart here, it'll be lap 94. We'll have about 25 laps to go here in the stage, a little bit over 200 miles left of action here in the Galaxy Cup Series.
So out of turn number 4 once again, it's going to be Kerner, but Hammond is outside this time by, and it's going to be Grassi in third, Pataska fourth, Woods fifth, Hickson-Boss slid way down your running order. He is looking about 14th position on this restart.
Green, green.
Geico restart zone and go back green flag racing across the stripe. Kerner with a big jump over Hammond. Hammond's now going to slide, well, try to slide in front. I've lost my drivers there. He does slide in front of Grassi, at least into one. Pataska to the outside, and he's got a mirror full of Matthew Woods on the bottom side. Cameron Stone in sixth.
Yeah, Hammond, my bad, I keep trying to fix that too. Hammond has just been able to have a really good turnaround. It's just an incredible way to go after it. Now he's going to look to the inside. He's saying, oh, you want to lead this whole race? Don't have anything about it. They're side by side. He's doing everything he can. He's going to stick the 90 on the top side. It's going to make him right up the racetrack a little bit up towards the wall. Almost into it, but he holds on to it. Now the 17 car going to try and lead a lap, but the 98 car is just so much of a better setup. Just overpowers him to the first straightaway. He's going to leave that lap as they go across into turn number 1. I said it was about 10 laps. I'm so wrong. I apologize about that. 10 laps from the halfway point. The actual stage is 120. As here comes the 98 car. He's going to wash out the racetrack. He almost makes contact with him, as now he falls back into the clutches of the 7 car. What an incredible save out of the 17, as he almost took at the 98. And now Wayne Grassi finds himself in the second spot, as now he's going to try and chase after 98. But oh my god, look how much he opens the guy going into 3. So now Kerner is going to try and sail away with that for the rest of the stage.
Absolute bravery from that number 17 machine. He ducked down at the last second on the entry of turn 3, and he put up a heck of a challenge on the number 98 machine. Looks like that 98, has just a bit too much pace to be able to contend with, and he was able to ride the outside line through 1 and 2, and you get a lot of momentum being able to keep the outside line in a corner as you head onto the straightaway. Good job by the number 98 machine. He's already cleared by about a half a second over Wayne Grassi. Grassi's, rival in Wineland is starting to make his way from the tail end of the longest line. He's currently sits P12, so he passed about 2 cars for position so far as we look at Kevin Steele in that Ally-inspired machine, very similar to the machine, the livery rather, that you see in the NASCAR Cup Series for Jimmy Johnson. Steele currently sits P8, so he could look at getting a couple stage points here in Stage 2.
Well, I flipped back to this battle for a pretty good reason, because I saw Jonathan Delaney giving Kevin Steele a bit of a challenge, but since then Delaney has fallen back a bit, but he has made his way into the top 10, which is pretty good there for the driver of the number 6. Caldwell going to be the next driver for Wineland, though, to go up there and pass. Wineland starting his tear back up to the field. I'm not certain of the issues for Wineland or Hickson-Bob, but they currently sit 11th and 13th respectively, making their way back up through the field. They should both get a chance to go for some stage points, but it's going to be tight, as we should be good to the end of the stage now on fuel at the very least. Obviously, if Hickson-Bob in all those laps, it's a matter of how these tires go, though, because you can wear your tires out pretty quick, or you can hang on to them like we saw Hickson-Bob doing earlier on.
Yeah, and an update on the Zach Probst situation. We talked about how that little damage kind of goes a long way with these new damage model. He's decided to park it, so that's now back-to-back weeks of rough finishes for him. That's going to hurt him more in this championship fight, as he's just trying to make it into the round of 16. But right now, with 2 DNFs, that's not going to do well for that San Diego Padres. But up front right now, Eddie Kerner still holds on to the race lead. Wayne Grassi still holds on to the second spot. He's actually not that far behind. He's holding on pretty well compared to most other drivers. He's a half second behind him. Hammond and Mataska are still nose to tail for that third spot, as they're just fighting each other tooth and nail for the third spot. Hickson-Bob is actually kind of falling off the pace. He's all the way back in 13th position, believe it or not, as he's not having a good restart, as he started around the 5th position, now all the way back out, even outside the top 10 at stage 1. He was almost the last car on the lead lap, believe it or not, so not a really good way for him to round out the stage number 2 unless he can turn it around. But right now, Wayne Grassi is a man on the move. He started 15th. He found himself up in 2nd. Wataska still in 3rd. Hammond with an incredible run in 4th. And Jeremy Morrison, after being a little bit of an unknown after his first pit stop, finds himself back in the 5th spot. And Cameron Stone just holds on to 6th, and Matthew Woods is 7th.
Sometimes being quiet is the most lethal way of earning points in action when you have a lot of stage points to, or rather stage points that could potentially fall into your hands. Sorry about that. So currently, I see a massive hornet's nest there as we head on the entry of 3. Eric Wineland starting to struggle to make his way through the field as he starts to venture into the top 10. His first victim here, as we watch him make a position up on the 44 of Kevin Steele, who's now going to drop outside the top 10 end stage points. That 31 will next take advantage of the number 48 machine, I believe, of Matthew Woods on the entry of 1.
He's got a lap car between he and Woods. The battle behind him, though, starting to heat up, as actually another lap car getting himself in the middle of things. That's the 77 of, I'm going to try and find out who that is, actually, Dalton Mobley. Cody goes as that first lap car in front of these guys, and that is your lucky dog right now, the number 88 National Guard Chevrolet. Usually races a Ford, said he made a mistake when registering for this race this week, and is in a Chevy. It's actually, I mean, it looks pretty good. He's actually doing decently well. He is a lap down, granted, but only in 15th. You've seen him have a couple of really rough weeks these last couple of go-arounds at Charlotte and Kansas, so 15th, not so bad right now, given his previous outings lately. But Wineland then is going to start looking to Matthew Woods, who we saw make some contact with Zach Probst for that last yellow. These other guys further back, Petrucco looking to the inside of Caldwell into turn 3. We'll go back to that battle.
Yeah, you talk about Goza running that 88 car. It's actually kind of a little bit even, and not really on purpose, but now it's a throwback to Dale Jr.'s National Guard car from 2014, I believe it was, or 2012 when he ran Daytona in the July race. So, you know, running a Dale Jr. car at Michigan holds a little bit of a value because of the history he has here with that 2008 win with the fuel mileage under caution at Michigan, getting pushed to the finish line to win his first race for Hendrick in a points race, might I add, because he won a Bud shootout that year as well. And then just the incredible story of him being able to go back and win Michigan and go back to victory lane after not having won since that race in 08. So still a pretty good run of him, even though he is not exactly, he's a lap down, so he's not really in a position to really do much, but still it's really well to see him run that car and run in the lucky dog spot up, challenging the 8th place driver, Eric Wineland. So it's still just really good to see him. He goes all the way down to the bottom. Matthew Woods side by side with him as they come across the start finish line, as he's going to clear him. Eddie Kerner is still holding on to the race lead. we've seen mostly throughout him, when he gets up to the lead, he starts running away. He opens up by a 3-second gap at this point. That's the exact opposite. Grassy's holding on. He's less than a second behind him. So he's still chasing him down and holding on pretty well. You see Eric Wineland holding on, trying to get by Jeremy Morrison for the 7th spot, or 6th spot going into turn number 3. My bad. As they go off into turn number 3, he's going to be all over the back bumper. The 22 actually washes up. That's going to force him to check up all the way up towards the wall. He's going to try and dive it down to the inside. Yes, he is. He's going to go side by side with him coming to start finish line. And they're trying to chase down Cameron Stone for the 6th spot. So a big shake-up going on down there towards the back end of the field for the stage points. As they go back into turn number 1, as now Wineland moves himself into 6th.
So despite the fact that he really had to use up his tires to get to what is now the P6 position for that 31 machine, his momentum has not stopped so far. Nearly gets into the outside wall in 2. So he's going to have to defend from the 22 Morrison down 3 and 4, but a good 3 and 4 here will get him clear. He's clear on entry by 1 or 2 car lengths. Behind him, Cody Goza is kind of getting involved in battles for what are some of the last stage points here. Rich Petrucco currently clear of him by a car length or 2 as that 88 nearly gets into the wall as Matthew Woods tries to make his way by. Sorry, that's Dalton Mobley, who is currently actually battling for that lucky dog position. He stands a few car lengths ahead of the 88 rate, or the, 88, yes. 77 ahead of the 88. Matthew Woods is currently being challenged by the 63 of Hixenbaugh. Hixenbaugh in 10th place looking for some final stage points. So a couple of battles going on here. Final stage points and lucky dog as we head to the end of the stage.
Kevin Steele is right on the back of Caldwell, who was right on the back of Hixenbaugh. Hixenbaugh going to get right on by Matthew Woods. That's a difference in setups right there. That 63 is just so much quicker than a lot of these guys in your midfield. That said, it doesn't look to be very good in traffic. I mean, we see him making quick work of some of these guys, but he just doesn't have the same speed that guys like Wineland had to get up through the field. So that was good to see the difference of those two running up through the field and trying to work their way up to the front, because Wineland's up into 6th, and he's actually about to be going for the 5th spot here in a moment, because he is cut. He's going for the 5th spot, actually. Going up underneath Cameron Stone for 5th place. Wineland is looking quick. Hixenbaugh is looking quick as well, but just not so quick back in dirty air. Can't quite make as easy work of these guys on the short run, but that car really, I think, starts to come in on that long run and just does its work and is faster than, I think, definitely most of the field, if not the entire field, on those old tires.
Yeah, we're talking about the fight for the last bit of these stage points. Another fight we need to look on is the fight for the lucky dog position for when the caution comes out and you approach almost 10 to go. Goza and Hodgson in the 79 are fighting side by side coming off of turn number 2 for that lucky dog position. That is the 15th spot. So those two really try to fight each other because they know what's at stake, because they know that the cautions are far and few between each other. Depending on what happens, they have Caldwell as a little bit of a buffer right in front of them. I believe that is Caldwell as they fly off of turn number 4. They're going to be side by side as they come across the start-finish line, as this is one of the more important fights on who's going to be able to get back on the lead lap and try to get a top 10 finish towards the end of this race, because if you get in there, that's about a guaranteed top 10 if you can keep it on the lead lap. But regardless, you can go out there and try and fight for that for a top 10 position. So there's a lot at stake for that lucky dog spot, as still out front is Eddie Kerner with Wayne Grassi falling behind second. As he's running third is Christopher Hammond, who is fighting off Dallas Pataska still for the third spot. Then Wineland holds on to the 4th spot. Sorry, I keep mixing it up. For the 5th spot is Cameron Stone, not too far behind him, trying to catch up and get a top 5 by the end of the stage. Still a lot going on around this racetrack towards the last 11 to 10 laps in stage number 2.
Goza is making excellent work of these lead lap cars, because currently he's battling with what appears to be, oh no, I'm on board with Dalton Mobley, and that's why I'm having a little bit of confusion here, because Mobley is actually the first car to lap down. Apologies there, Noah. But no, he's battling with Hixenbaugh, and Hixenbaugh is currently standing P9. So there are a couple of benefits to being able to earn that lucky dog. While a lot of guys are going to have the option of being able to take a wave around, that number 77 machine, if he's able to hold on to that position, is going to get a pit stop. So he's not only going to be able to get waved around, but he's going to be on fresh tires and fresh fuel. Whereas a lot of those other guys are going to be on tires that are 20 laps old, and they're going to have a lot less fuel if they decide to take that yellow. So Hixenbaugh is currently making worth at 22 of Morrison, and that'll be for the P8 position. He's going for that position on the outside as they go ahead through 1 and 2, still side by side down the back straightaway, and they're going to be dead even on the entry of 3.
Morrison fights back around the bottom, leaving about a lane between he and Hixenbaugh off into 3, falls back in behind him, right behind the rear bumper of the 63 car, and he will concede that 8th position to Hixenbaugh. Matthew Woods, the final car in your top 10. We're under 10 laps now, 9 laps to go for these drivers to the end of stage number 2. This race just clicking away. Let's quickly go through your top 10 as Stage 2 gets ready to conclude. Eddie Kerner, still your race leader. This guy is just incredible. His car is just so much faster, so much better than the rest of the field. It seems like he can be touched for maybe the first 5-10 laps of a run, but after that, he just drives away from the rest of the field. Wayne Grassley seemed to give him a bit of a run for his money earlier on, but has since then fallen off to about a 2.8 second deficit, now 3 seconds across the start-finish line. Bataska then sits in 3rd. Christopher Hammond, a really good run for him tonight out of New York, just really blowing me away, and I think exceeding expectations, currently sitting 4th. Eric Wineland then sitting 5th, and he's got Cameron Stone, who we just passed a little while ago, sitting 6th behind him. Then it's Rich Petrucco, Bryson Hixenbaugh, who we've talked so much about, Jeremy Morrison in 9th, and Matthew Woods rounding out your top 10. A caution comes out. This is about 8 laps early on stage number 2. It's Jonathan Delaney.
Yeah, rough way to see it happen to him as we try to see a replay of what happened as the man of the Pennsylvania 6 Hooters machine still sitting up in the wall. He has not been able to move. I think he's just pinned up there. Oh, you see him fighting back there. The person behind him is Danny Midas. They head off into turn number 1. They're side by side. Oh, he tried to please the gap. Oh, he hit Kevin Steele in 44 and then just dumped the 6, ripping off his back bumper process. Talk about that terrible damage model they had. It's not really terrible, but, you know, a little bit of tweaks trying to fix that, but it just ripped off the back bumper, and that just killed it. You're listening to the scanner right now. Danny said he got into him. He lifted off the back bumper, but that still wasn't enough to not get in contact with him. They just outright picked up his back wheels off the ground and killed him. As that was just a terrible thing to see happen to Jonathan Delaney. You see right there, just hit him, and then just absolutely turned him up backwards. So just terrible to see what happened to him. As now we're going to be under caution, as that might be the end here for stage number 2, depending on what the officials decide to do.
What I'm afraid of here for that number 6 machine is not that rear damage so much, it's the fact that the 6 ended up getting into that outside safety barrier. He may, as a result, suffer some suspension damage, which is going to permanently, keep his car out of contention, and that ends a lead lap run. So even if he was right outside that top 10, he had the potential for a pretty solid top 10 run here today. You're going to see that rear trunk comes off, not the trunk rather, but the rear bumper. He hits the safer barrier in the front of his car. Didn't look like he hit it too harshly, but it's going to be hard to tell until he gets back down pit road.
We'll watch it one more time here in full speed. I don't think there's anything Myatt could have done differently because it looked like the 44 of Steele was just slower on the bottom side and kept so far up off that yellow line. Of course, the bottom here at Michigan, very slick, but he kept so far up off that yellow line that there was just nowhere for Myatt to go. Actually, oh wow, somebody just obliterated the wall after the fact. Who was that? I'm completely clueless as to who that was, but somebody came in that incident and just clobbered the fence. I'm still trying to figure out who that was. I'm at a loss as to who that might have been, but somebody just hit that wall really, really hard when that all happened. I'm trying to figure this out. And so there... He's going to be coming in. It's a chrome. Oh, is that Mabry?
It is a number 3. Yeah, it's Brian Mabry. He got on the apron going through this corner and then just got his back end loose and tried to overcorrect it and just went headfirst into the wall. That's his teammate. That's a teammate. He takes him out with him. So just a rough way to see that team go on is he just got a little bit on the apron and then was able enough to overcorrect him into the wall head first, and then just going to ruin the race for both of them. Not the way you wanted to see that go. Is now they're just stuck up there trying to get around as they almost hit each other again as they're just doing everything they can. So just a terrible way for them to round that out.
You know, a bad day just goes worse for the number 3 after a strong run earlier on. He's already 3 laps down, and it's just gonna get worse. I think that number 3 machine, if the car's okay, should, try to stay in the race here. There definitely could be a lot of attrition. We see that Michigan produces pack racing for a couple of laps. It means we could have a lot of big incidents. So as we enter here, the back end of this stage, I think, Andrew, you'll have to clarify on the ruling there on how stage points are going to be rewarded here. But the 31 is going to stay out here. And what is the back end of the stage with older tires?
Yeah, so especially with the quickie yellows in effect, it's something that iRacing just brought to the service this week, actually. Talking about that Tuesday update. It's the end of the season build going into the new season, the summer season here for 2020. It means iRacing brought out a lot of updates, of course. If you're familiar with the service, you probably have seen at this point that the 1987 Cup cars came in, the Ford F-150, a few different road cars, talking about the M4, GT4 on Tuesday with Lucky Dog. But these quickie yellows have sped things up. Under caution, obviously, quickie yellows, and it means that we get fewer laps under caution, more laps to go back green. So even with the previous rule in effect, the rule actually had no effect here because the caution came out so early, but it's allowing these guys to actually race things out here for the end of stage number 2. We have a shootout on our hands. We'll have 4 laps of green flag racing when these guys go green in just a moment. There they go, off and away. One car bobbled for a moment, but Wineland off and away with a big gap back to Eddie Kerner. The first time we've seen the 31 in the lead by virtue of a pit stop this time around. He leads into 1.
First time we've seen a lead change is about, I believe, lap number 8 or 9, as that's how just as much Kerner has been able to dominate is now Wineland's goal. Block as much as you can as he washes up at a 2, as here comes the 98, as he's going to let him by him. He's talking about something on the radio. Here comes the 98 peeking to the inside. He's going to make the pass going into turn number 3, I believe, as now Eddie Kerner is going to clear him, as now Pataska in his 23 is going to close the gap, try and pass him on the inside, as, the 31 car all the way up on towards the end, top of the wall, is that he's really going to drop off the pace. So big issues for him. I think he had issues with the car, which is why he let him by. And then the caution's back out.
And this should definitely end stage number 2. Myatt is spun around out of turn 4. We'll try and get a replay on him. He was further back, so we might not have a replay of the incident. I do want to say Wineland stayed out to get that race lead, and that's why he was falling back so quickly. He had old tires on that race car, gave way to Eddie Kerner pretty quickly. But here's the incident with Danny Myatt that's going to send him around to cause this third caution of the race. Oh, wow, it actually starts with Goza and Hickenbottom, I believe.
Oh, my goodness.
And those were a couple of massive hits there out of turn number 4. We're going to go back and get another couple of looks at this one.
Yeah, there was a call out by Maya. He said that looked intentional. I'm not exactly sure on what happened. You see, the 88 got really loose, and oh my goodness, he turned into a wall. And this Goza just slams. I'm not even sure who that is. It hit him. But that's just
that was the 12. That was the 12 of Caldwell.
I'm not sure what that's about, but that is not the way you wanted to see that go, because they were so well up until that point. So just a rough way to see that end. That destroys those 2 cars. Oh wow.
No, that wasn't intentional at all. I'm going to step on you again here, Trey. I'm sorry, but that was not intentional at all. Cam Caldwell made a little bit of contact at first with... We're going to try and get that replay back up because that was really, really interesting. That was something there with Caldwell. I got to get back over to the 12. Apologies for this. ATVO is sometimes really, really picky. You see, Morrison sends it up on the bottom. Net codes the left front of Caldwell, and he's trying to save this race car. Delaney checks up, then goes and checks up, and in doing so got loose. Those 2 make contact, go up the racetrack. I don't think there was anything intentional there, just really unfortunate circumstances in trying to hang on to some unruly race cars.
Yeah, no, I wasn't trying to say that was intentional at all. That was just something that the 20 said over the radio, and I was just feeding it back because it was interesting, because I wasn't just sure what happened. Because for me, Maya was disconnected all the way from turn 3 up until the point where he got wrecked, so I had no idea what happened until then. So I just throw that out there, but still just a really, really rough wreck for a lot of those guys.
So pit stops do open here after that absolutely massive incident. A couple things to note here. That number 63 machine is going to stay out, so Hicksonbo is going to make his way to the lead, and he's going to be on tires that only have about 2 laps of race wear on them. So I think that was the right call. It's going to put him ahead of the 98. He's going to have a little bit of a buffer as we get the stage restart here in a couple of laps. Probably only 2 laps to the green here with the quickie yellows. Timing and scoring right now is showing Eddie Kerner is the P6 position, so he's going to have a little bit of digging to do, but he's going to have slightly fresher tires.
We'll try and dial up Bryson Hicksonbaugh real quick. Bryson, do you have a copy?
Yes, I do.
Well, Bryson, I don't believe it's going to give you the stage win. Of course, Kerner had the lead at the time of caution, but you're going to stay out, take over the race lead, and it's been an interesting trip to this point. Tell us about it so far.
Well, I started in the back because I didn't have a good qualifying setup, so I decided it'd be best to take it easy at the back. Had to work my way through the field, tried some pit strategy in turn one, or stage one that didn't work out all that well, but still got stage points there, and then stage two pit strategy also sent me to the back with that caution while I was on pit road. So it's just been an uphill battle to get to the front here, and kind of surprised that they all pit there because we only had one lap on the tires.
So with the new tire, well, I should say adjustments to the tire model, what does that really do for you as a driver? How does it change things, and how important is it to come and get tires? Obviously, those guys felt like they needed to, and you didn't. So how have things changed a little bit since Tuesday?
Well, there's been a lot more, I guess, fall off early in the run. It falls off quicker, so you need tires earlier, really. Maybe I don't know enough about it, and they're all making the right choice here, but we'll see. It's been an interesting week trying to figure out what's changed on it, what works, what doesn't.
Well, Bryson, as you gear up for this restart, do you have anyone to thank for your run so far?
Thanks to my teammates, Cam Stone, Cody Bird, Tim Rail. They've been working hard this week, but trying to get the setup to work, and we got two of us up here at the front right now.
Well, Bryson, good luck to you. I'm sure we'll be talking to you later on.
Yep. Hope.
Oh, I'm sorry to Bryson. It sounded like he was done talking, and I moved him a little bit prematurely. But we appreciate Bryson for taking the time to talk to us there as he gets ready to go back green flag racing. It's kind of funny, actually. But he is going to then restart first place. He and Cameron Stone, along with Rich Petrucco and Matthew Woods, they all stay out on the racetrack. The first car off of pit lane was actually Christopher Hammond, who beats out Eddie Kerner, who won stage number 2 right there. So as we get ready to go back green flag racing here, Noah, definitely a shakeup at the top of your standings.
Absolutely, it's going to be very interesting to see how that's going to affect it, especially for the 98 of Kerner. We haven't seen him really run in the dirty air all that much because of the fact that he's been able to hold on to it. So it's going to be a big question on how they're going to be able to run for this into this stage for the rest of the race. As now Hexenbaugh, the usual man we've seen in the lead before the 98 showed up, he runs off with the race lead. Cameron Stone going to follow in second, as Matthew Woods still holding on to third. But here comes the 27 Petrucco, who we haven't really seen much of throughout this race. He finds himself trying to go up to third, but he's going to wash up to the 98 car. The 98 car is going to flyer on the outside, as now Christopher Hammond in the 17 is going to try and do so as well as they get ready to set it back into turn number 3.
We enter stage 3, 15 cars on the lead lap, 15 cars, a lot of strong cars up front with a solid chance at the victory here. That 98 machine is already making his way all the way up to P2 on lap 1 from outside of row number 3. He's going to challenge the lead, I think, into turn 1 as he passes the number 57 machine of Cameron Stone, there. And he's setting sights on Hexenbaugh onto the entry of 1. Closest side-by-side battle is for P3 between 17 of Hammond and Stone.
They were 3 wide, a little further back into 1. We switched back to him for a moment, but Kerner is going to be all over Hexenbaugh off into turn 3. He's darn near there and ready to pounce. Kerner has just been getting closer and closer over the course of the last half lap or so. Got by Stone pretty easily. He brought Hammond with him. Those fresh tires definitely meaning something. It's very surprising. I would have sided with Hexenbaugh there. Why do you pit after just 1 lap? But I guess the heat cycles there, of course, you scrub some rubber off those tires that first lap at speed and warm them up a bit, and then you cool them back down for that caution. And these guys have fresh tires. I guess it means that much. I'm very surprised, honestly, myself, that it's meant this much. Kerner has just gotten right back up to him. And the thing that surprises me is he brought Hammond with him. That means those fresh tires mean a lot, as Kerner looks to the outside into 3, can't do anything with it.
Yeah, you see Kerner trying to get around him. The 63 car saying, not so fast. I have been waiting for this moment the entire run, and now he finally finds him back there, as here comes the 98 car to the inside, side by side down the front straightaway. Christopher Hammond having an incredible run up there in the third. He's right behind them, as now Kerner going to take over the race lead and go back up to the top of the scoring pylon as they fly off of turn number 2. Your leader now back is the 98. 63 of Hixenbaugh runs back in second, and Hammond in third, as Eric Wineland is able to hold on to the 4th spot as Matthew Woods runs at your top 5 as they approach lap 126. As they go back into turn number 3, that 63 car trying to close down the gap. He's right over the back bumper trying to catch into the toe and maybe set him up for another corner, but that 98 car is just running away again as we've seen all race long.
You know, we've been talking about the changes to the tire model coming into tonight. This is the first time that we see them on the NASCAR Cup car here following the Week 13 updates on iRacing. And, you know, we just saw how effective clean tires are after only 2 laps here at Michigan of green flag running for Hixenbaugh. And he's currently sitting at P2, but it's amazing to see that 98 pull to the front after only about 3 laps. Even that number 17 machine really made very quick work of guys that were behind Hixenbaugh but did not take tires. So the top 3 or 4 have really separated themselves from the rest of the pack. In fact, the top 5 are pretty well separated. Grassi in the P5 position. Although Jeremy Morrison is only about 2 or 3 car lengths ahead of Petrucco as we look side by side between Pataska and Wood. Wood on the outside, Pataska looking inside on the entry 1.
And I'll switch back here because, of course, Petrucco is the highest car that stayed out under that caution. Woods the next driver that stayed out, and Stone behind him. Pataska makes quick work of Woods, got to him on the front stretch, passed him out at 2. So Pataska's moving up by these guys, and Woods and Stone headed in the wrong direction, dragging Petrucco with him. Definitely very interesting to see that big of a difference on those tires. Of course, it's more than 1 lap simply because of the caution laps, but realistically, 1 green flag lap on those tires made that much of a difference.
Yeah, you see, looking back there, the 48 of Matthew Woods still having to put up a fight with right there with Cameron Stone. Right in front of them with a 3-car fight between Pataska, Morrison, and Petrucco as they fly up into turn number 1. So a big stack up going on here involving a lot of drivers. Kevin Steele falling back there in that Ally Chevrolet. He has the 77 up on his outside. That is Dalton Mobley, who was able to get himself back in the lead lap, so now he's going to take over the 11th spot as he fly off into turn number 3. Still a pretty aggressive fight going on for Pataska, who was running up in second and third, now finding himself running back there, trying to hold on to the top 10, but they are really stacked up all over each other as they go to complete lap 128. Still your leader is Eddie Kerner, who is slowly but surely running away from those the other of the top 5 as they're in a 3-wide fight as here comes Grossi. He gets a little loose going into turn number 1. He's going to hold on to it, but now the fight, as we talked about all races, back up there as now it is Wineland, Hixenbaugh, Hammond, and Grossi fighting on 2nd through 5th as they were all over each other going to turn number 1 2 by 2 as they're still really close to each other into turn number 3 as now Grossi is going to try and take back over the 4th spot for the 17 as they round out turn number 4 as they're all over each other trying to fight for every position they can here as they complete lap 129.
Unfortunate that we had to break away from the battle around that top 10 spot, but the battle up front is just as intense, and it's for, you know, better honors and better prestige. Side by side right now is between the 17 and the 7, and right now we have a tale of, well, actually these guys are both on fresher tires, but that 63 machine is on tires that are about 5 laps older than the 7 and the 17. So these guys are going to go side by side, but they have a little bit of what could be a roadblock of the if those worn tires on the 63 continue to get worse. Grassi pulls with the advantage off of turn 4. 63 does not get a good run off of the exit of 4, and I think Grassi might have a run onto the entry of 1 here for that P3 position. Final podium spot.
Yeah, you want to talk about something interesting? We talk about how hard of a hit Jonathan Delaney had after getting sideways there into turn number 1, he actually finds himself holding on to the lead lap back there in the 15th position with that rear bumper missing. So he's actually doing pretty well. He's, like we talk about, holding on to the lead lap. He runs 15th, trying to catch up to Cam Caldwell for the 14th spot, but just an incredible turnaround for him after how much damage is done to that car. Eddie Kerner still holds on to the race lead with a pretty sizable gap over second place. Eric Wineland was able to open a little bit of a gap. Same for Wayne Grassi, Christopher Hermond, and Bryson Hixenbaugh holding up to a fight for the 4th spot. As back there, we talk about Petrucco and Cameron Stone and Dallas Patasca. They have kind of a little bit gap themselves a little bit. So again, we talk about in the middle of this run, a lot of these drivers is going to try and be careful and mind their tires, mind their business, and make it to the final 50 store laps and try and get themselves into a position where they can fight for this race lead and just stay green flag racing. As now Grassi takes over the 2nd spot. So big change for the positions now as Grassi finally moves himself back up into the 2nd spot. So incredible run for them as these guys are back on each other fighting for the 2nd spot again. We talked about just about 5 to 10 laps ago, but still that is nothing in comparison to what's going on with the lead, as the gap is already 3 seconds from 1st to 2nd. So Eddie Kerner is still just absolutely running away with this race.
We ride on board that Casey's General Store number 63 machine. I think those tires might finally starting to be able to level out there for the number 63. After, having those tires that are 5 laps older, he's starting to make work here on the 17, 31, and number 7 machine. Has about similar pace after falling back to the 6th position. So, Noah, I like that you were talking about that number 6 machine and guys that are fighting tooth and nail for, the back end of the top 10. I think we should also, just talk a little bit about the Lucky Dog battle as we watch this battle for the P4 spot. Right now, Randy Drumhiller is the first car 1 lap down, and he's going to hold it by 1.8 seconds over the number 53 machine of Preston McRae. That's P16 and P17 on track. If we get a yellow, that's a chance to, not have to take that wave round. You get a chance to get fresh tires and fresh fuel, and you're equal with everyone else that's on the lead lap. Just have to start at the tail end of the longest line, and you're right back in it.
Yeah, we're talking about Christopher Hammond. He's had rough 2 weeks at Charlotte in Kansas, just being in the wrong position at the wrong time and having a destroyed race car. So just an incredible turnaround for them as he's able to run up there in the top 5. We saw him have a little bit of an issue on his own just because of the fact of he overshot his pit box by quite a bit. Backed up, still not enough. Backed up a whole pit box to get back in, took 2 tires, and he's able to hold on to it. And now he's rebounded all the way back up to the 5th spot. So it's just an incredible turnaround for them as Wayne Grassi's actually have a little bit of a connection issue. As now he's still gone. He's been gone for over half a lap, so that's a big stack up for the 2nd spot, as no one knows where he is. So right now, for the time being, move Eric Wineland back up into the 2nd spot, and Bryson Hixenbaugh in the 3rd. But after an incredible run for Wayne Grassi, he has so far disappeared.
We'll have to keep an eye on iRacing's chat log, which is where we also see if someone has been disconnected from the server, either manually or due to internet issues or CPU issues. So right now we see that Eric Wineland is in the P2 position. We take a look at that number 17 machine. I really like what we've seen out of the number 17. Noah, you said that he's had a lot of bad luck, and all he needs to do is get it home 60 more laps, 1 more pit stop. He could end up here, come out of here with the top 5. He's had a lot of good runs this season. He's the highest in points without a win. He's doing his job here in the series. Heading into the playoffs here, only 10 races out. Next week, we're heading to Sonoma, though, and that's going to be a real mix-up for these guys after a lot of intermediates and Michigan.
Yeah, a lot of big tracks then going to funnel these guys through the twists and turns, the S's and the hairpin of Sonoma Raceway out in California. Christopher Hammond having some connection issues there. You see his car fall to pieces on the broadcast. That is not accurate, just those connection issues making it look like they have fallen off, but it fixes itself down the back straightaway. He is good to go. Somebody who's creeping into this picture suddenly is Dallas Pataska. He was looking pretty good earlier on at Kansas, got caught up in that lap car incident that actually started with Cody Goza, who's right on his back end and his lap. So Cody goes in the 88, not for position here. That car is actually looking really quick. He must have come out later on, come out of the pits. But Pataska is looking to make up for a Kansas run that was called off quickly rather. He looked so good early on at Kansas. He's looking pretty good now through the mid stages at Michigan. I wonder if he can close this thing out for a top 5, maybe even a podium, because that 23 is starting to look really good in the later runnings here. And I wouldn't put it past him to even get up there and possibly battle for second. I don't know if anyone can touch Eddie Kerner, but that car is looking really good right now.
Yeah, the 98 car we saw last week just has absolutely been on rails for since his debut, and has taken every name that has come to him and has not really had anybody as competition for him. That's not really putting any more disrespect towards any of the other fields, but it's just you can't understate the fact of how good Eddie Kerner is on these race cars, because we talked about it last week, he won that Landon Castle Challenge, Mr. 10,000K. He is 6th in the points in the Road to Pro Series, so he's again at the top tier level with those NASCAR Pro drivers in the iRacing Series running for like Wood Brothers and RCR and all those other guys. So he's one of the guys that runs up with them, and he's just coming down here and just taking names and adding them to whatever that tie-dye car is and wherever he wants to put them. He has just been absolutely gone and just on rails, and it's no difference here. As Wayne Grassi update on him, he has reconnected. So just a terrible way to see him go back. He has fallen 4 laps down outside the top 20, so he goes from 2nd to 22nd. Not the way you wanted to see it, but that's going to really help Christopher Hammond, who finds himself back in the 5th position. So really good turnaround for him to see if he can get a top 5 to end out this race.
So yeah, unfortunate there for the number 7 machine of Grassi. Excellent runs the last couple of weeks. He's currently sitting at 4 laps down, getting reconnected to the server. So he's going to need a lot of attrition to get a very, very good points day. He's still going to come out of here with a decent amount of points from, solid results in the stages. Just unfortunate to have internet connection issues, although, it's similar to mechanical failures in real life. We hop on board that Yeti machine, the number 57 of Cameron Stone here, and he's absolutely stalking the number 77 of Dalton Mobley. Mobley, after being a lap down, he's all the way up to P7. Absolutely impressive run from that number 77 machine, and I don't think he's done yet. He stands 4 seconds back of Rich Petrucco and that number 27 in P6, but he's not out of the running for a top 5 with, a couple of yellows or even, mistakes from the guys ahead of him. All he needs to do is keep running strongly.
And he's doing just that right now. Cameron Stone, he wasn't looking so great at the end of stage 1 or 2, but he's really starting to turn it back up here in stage 3. He's looking really good right now. I mean, he's not necessarily looking like he's going to go battle for a win, but he's looking like he's going to get a solid points position. And that really is what matters, the grand scheme of things, because if you can just start building momentum and start fine-tuning your setups here, and remember, this series is going to revisit Michigan here in just a couple of months, so anything he can learn from this race to continue bettering his setups is going to help him in the long run and really set him up for a really good season here in the Galaxy Cup Series. Of course, full-length NASCAR races, a full-length season, it really matters to just get into a mid-season vibe and just start running really good races. He makes that pass on Dalton Mobley through 3 and 4. He's going to get crossed back over, though. Mobley down to the bottom side, fighting back. This is for 7th.
Yeah, you see them fighting over that 7th spot right now. Cameron Stone, he's talking about wanting to try and get a mid-season run to better himself for the playoffs. Cameron Stone doesn't have to worry about it. He's already has a locked win, so he's locked himself into the chase. So what he does now is just to kind of build himself a little bit of insurance protection to try and get to the round of 8. That's all he can do with what he has. Dalton Mobley, though, he does not have a win, so he's one of the guys trying to race his way in. I don't even believe is running up in the top 6, in the top 20. So, this is a big day for him, especially with people like Brian Mabry and Zach Probst, 2 guys who are not even in the race anymore after Mabry disconnected after having that rough wreck with the spin of the 6 car. And the same for Zach Probst. He got turned and that destroyed the back end of his car. So now he finds himself all the way out of the race. So this is a big points day for all those guys trying to close up the gap to get himself into a playoff position later on in the season. And Matthew Woods, one of the guys who is trying to fight his way in too, I believe he's back there in the... Yes, he is 19th in the points. So a top 10 run could really help him late in the season.
What's going to help these guys too is that Cody Bird is not having the best day. He stands 2 laps down in the 20th position. As we continue to watch the 77 and the 57, they've been trading positions here side by side for the last couple laps. Absolutely excellent battle. But yeah, that 64 machine not having the strongest day. And then Ryan Samuelson, I believe, did not start the race. He came into tonight 15 points up on that number 17 position in the points standings. So, he could fall victim to falling out of the top 16, and it opens the door for these guys that are running pretty well, such as Woods. And he sits P9 right now. Woods stalking here on the 77 and the 57 onto the entry of 3. 57 going to clear by a couple of car lengths to see if the 77 can bounce back on the straightaway. He's going to be side by side in 4.
I switched to Hammond there for a moment. Hammond has fallen out of the top spot, higher up spot that he was in. He's fallen back to 6th actually, as Petrucco got on by him. And then Stone out of 4, very slow, had some issues getting back up to speed down the straightaway and loses a ton of time to Woods and Mobley, who now battle through 1 and 2. Woods are on the top side, and suddenly Matthew Woods, looking like he has a really good car. He's looking for 7th. He's going to nose ahead for now, down the back straightaway. Woods over Mobley into turn 3. That's a Drumhiller, the 30 behind the 57 there of Stone. Don't worry about that because Drumhiller is laps down. In fact, I'll try and find him. He's your lucky dog right now. Randy Drumhiller, so it's worth talking about this guy. We haven't mentioned his name at all, I don't think, aside from the grid. He is currently sitting in 15th after starting 30th and is in your lucky dog position. If a caution comes out right now, he's right back in this thing.
Absolutely, and that's what these cautions are for, but sadly enough, he's not going to have a guaranteed caution, so what he needs is to hold on to that position, not kill his tires. See the 77 wash up the racetrack, he's going to fall back and lose not 1 but 2 spots, and yet that's not for position, but that's just a lap car getting around him. So the 30 car, the number one thing he wants to try and do now is see what can he do to hope for a caution and put himself in the right position. He's holding on to, I believe, is a decent-sized position from Preston McRae. You have McRae exiting turn 4 right now, so your pole sitter runs back there in the 16th spot in that credit 1 Banks. He's side by side with the guy he started alongside for the start of the race of Kevin Steele. Kevin Steele, he's running back there in the 10th position, so he's in the top 10 position as well. So pretty good turnaround after a rough race at Charlotte, ending 101 laps down. Had a pretty good turnaround for Kansas, and now having an excellent turnaround here for Charlotte. He's another one of those guys who have a locked-in position, so he doesn't worry about the chase. He's in a good position. But Jeremy Morrison is a guy who's going to try and get himself in a better position to try and put himself in the best position he can for the playoffs. I don't even believe that he himself is in the top 20 either in points, so a good position to go a long way later in the season as we approach the cutoff race. And they're going to stack up there behind that lap car of Preston McRae as they head off to complete lap 1, number 151, and so we find ourselves under 50 to go here for this race.
Yeah, that number 53 machine just got past the 44 Steel, as you saw here on Pit Stop TV. That man's on a mission. He stands about 1 3/4 seconds back from the number 1 second. Number 30 machine of Randy Drumhiller. And as Noah said, he stands 15, and all he needs is 1 yellow here, and he's right back in the action for a top 10 spot. And now we're taking a look at that number 30 machine of Drumhiller, and he's held the spot for most of this run as the lucky dog, or the potential lucky dog here in the race, and he's currently battling there with the lead lap car. That's the number 77 of Dalton Mobley. So just the fact that he's ahead of the P9 car shows that he has a lot of pace. He just needs to get in the right position. He needs the dominoes to fall his way. Or, well, it's the cars to fall his way is rather the expression. You get my point. But, a lot to play with here with about 45 to go.
And so Woods over Cameron Stone, going back to this battle here for 7th. Woods starting to set sail, but I will say Bryson Hixenbaugh has lost 5th place to Rich Petrucco. Petrucco suddenly, with a really good long-run car, a lot of speed out of this 27 right now. They're coming up to where their pit stop should come. They had about 80 laps from that last stage break. Of course, the caution plays into it a bit, so probably 77, 78 laps from your stage break to the end of the race. And they're coming up right to halfway. Halfway between that would be about lap 160, 162, somewhere in there, where you might want to come down the pit lane for tires and fuel. So they've got about 8 laps, 6 laps, somewhere in there to where these guys pit. And suddenly Petrucco's looking really good. Keep in mind, if they do split it right in half, this is how Petrucco's car is going to look at the end of the race, as long as he keeps it out of trouble and keeps all 4 fenders on it. That 27 is looking great here right at the end of a run.
Yeah, we saw him back at Charlotte. He had a really good run with Hixenbaugh, and I forget who the other car was he was running with, but he was running top 3 most of the race until he ran a connection issues. He had another good run going at Kansas, so I believe he also had connection issues there. So this is a really good turnaround for him, especially a lot trying to get the momentum back to try and pick it up. He's one of the guys that want to try and get himself in a position to try and make it. I believe he actually debuted back at Charlotte. I'll have to check myself to hope that I'm not wrong on that end too. So Petrucco just having an incredible run up there in the top 5. Hixenbaugh trying to close the gap down to try and get him back there to shove him into 6th, but still he's just side by side with Pataska as they head down the front straightaway. They complete lap 155, but these two are all over each other. An update on the Wayne Grass situation. He has opted, now he has retired the race. He is disconnected. He's calling it a day, so a disappointing end of the race for a 7 car after such an incredible run for himself. But still the 27 and 23 raging on off of turn number 2 for that 4th position, as they have been side by side almost for a complete lap now.
Yeah, the number 7 probably felt that, he didn't have much to gain, and the chances of us getting a yellow will just decrease and decrease as we get longer and longer into a run, and guys just get more and more spread out. 27 finally starting to pull an advantage off of turn 4. He's going to get in the outside wall. That's going to be a lot of suspension damage. We might get a yellow. Caution flag out here. Rich Petrucco, unfortunately, might be an end to a top 5 run after some contact with Dallas Pataska.
He was looking so good, and he was making that pass on the inside and just tried to slide up in front of Pataska. Pataska was having none of it, didn't lift for him, and quite frankly, Petrucco came across his nose, and Pataska doesn't have to lift, especially coming down to the thick of things, coming down to the end of the race. Pataska does not at all have to blip that throttle and let Petrucco slide up like that. Petrucco just came across his nose a bit. Very unfortunate, but it's a game of inches, motorsport, and unfortunately it just bit Rick Petrucco in the rear end, and literally the rear end is falling off of that race car. The TV panel is waving around and waving goodbye, unfortunately, to what could have been a really, really good run for the New Yorker. That car could still contend for a top 10 or so, but it's not going to contend for that top 3 or better that I thought he was going to have. It was looking so good. He was battling to get up into 3rd and start chasing down Eric Wineland for 2nd. Unfortunately, he's going to go down the pit lane and have to suffer a lot of repairs under this caution.
Yeah, and that's such, we were just talking about a little bit of a commentator's curse there. As I talked about, we saw the same thing happen to Zach Probst. The entire backed bumper is just bouncing off the track surface like a pogo stick, as now he is actually voicing a little bit of displeasure towards Pataska after what happened there, because obviously very frustrated, as that is just not what he wanted to see, as that's going to almost end any momentum he had towards a top 10 spot. And if he gets back there, which we've been wrong about before, if he gets back there, it's gonna be very impressive. Hopefully he could turn this around in the final 50 or so laps of this race and just come back, tear through the field, and get a top 10 to try and give himself a momentum to finally break that bad luck he's been suffering for the last 2 weeks here in the Galaxy Cup Series. But just a terrible way to see it happen towards the final 50 laps of this race. But the guy that's really going to help is that 30 car we talked about of Randy Drumhiller. He was a lap down. He's finally going to get that lucky dog, and now he is going to go around the pace truck, what he's been hoping to see all race, and now he is going to be back in the lead lap and try and fight for this top 10 finish.
There's a reason we talk about the lucky dog battle so much. It's because it has the potential to shake up the battle, shake up the storyline so much. Excellent to see Randy Drumhiller get that lucky dog, because that's going to put him in the fight for a top 10 position. So the virtual crews will tend to their virtual cars here at Michigan, and we'll see what happens here with the 27 machine. Kerner comes off pit road in that P1 position here. Most notably here, this gets these guys good to the finish of the race, because we only have about 40 laps of racing action left here at Michigan Speedway. And I'm assuming everyone came down pit road. We were at the back end of a pit cycle. Randy Drumhiller has not gotten the opportunity yet, but he will get the opportunity to come down pit road as soon as he cycles back to the lead lap, and he'll be behind the pace car and get his option.
Well, been looking at the comments over on YouTube. You guys want to talk to some more drivers, so we'll go ahead and try and dial up. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to dial up Eddie Kerner right now, so we'll try and get the next best option. That is going to be Eric Wineland. We'll drag him down here, get him ready to get talking to us, and for that, I'll turn it over to Noah Carmichael.
Eric Wineland is Noah Carmichael up at the Pitstop.tv booth. Do you have a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, you've been the man on the move so far this race, having to fight off so many comers and goers as Wayne Grassi, Hickson, Bob, Ataska, and anybody between. What's it been like having to tackle this 2-mile D-shaped oval that makes up MIS?
It's been difficult. I clearly still have some work to do compared to our leader here. The guy, there's a reason the kid won $10,000. But otherwise, it's been fun. I've been able to be really aggressive about it. Probably overly aggressive at times. I apologize to Dallas because I got contact with him on the restart, that last restart. So overall, looking forward to this stint here. Hopefully we can keep it green because I feel like I'm a little better in the long run. I don't know if I have Eddie speed, but I feel like I got second place speed for sure.
All right, before I let you go here, we talk a little bit about the new tire model, how it's affected so many drivers. How has that been trying to get used to it in such a short amount of time you had before tonight?
It's definitely changed a lot of driving styles. I've definitely changed mine up a little bit. I won't give my tips and secrets that I've learned so far out, but I'm sure everyone will know them here before too long. So appreciate it, Noah. Getting ready to go.
Absolutely. Hope we could talk to you at the end of this race. Good luck out there.
Thank you.
All right, and that's going to bring us back. Sorry about that. Aaron Druvo, we're going to bring it back to the green flag here. I'm going to toss it back to you, Andrew, as we get ready to go to the restart. Eric Wineland's going to start second as Eddie Kerner's going to start on the front row again. As Hicksonbaugh, who started all the way back at the half, is going to take over the third spot. As now Barney's going to wave that green flag. He's going to break his shoulder again as they're going to fly down the front straightaway, and I'm going to hand it back over to Andrew. And that's going to give Hicksonbaugh up there into the race lead. This is what we've been working on. Those two are actually working together. They know, hey, we're not able to beat each other on our own. Let's work together and actually try to put this man behind us. Oh, here goes Wineland shooting off to the inside of the racetrack. He's off into the grass. He's going to slide him into the field. Oh, hard hit in the back. And it's going to kill the suspension. And that's going to ruin the run. He's going to hit again by Goza. And he's going to hit again by someone else as we were talking to him, and he felt so good about the final 50 laps of this race. And now the man out of Pennsylvania with so much damage is going to ruin his race as they were trying so hard to work together. They knew they weren't going to be able to pass each other on, pass the 98 on their own, so they said, hey, let's work together. They pushed each other on the front straightaway. You see on the replay here on board the 31 car on the back bumper. Bump, 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 bump. They're working all over. The 63 got a little loose. Still to the 31. That sends off to the inside. And obviously, he's all the way down there. He has nothing he can do but just hold on for the ride. But luckily, thankfully, this is a sim race because that is such a hard hit for that 31 car. And it's going to ruin such an amazing run he had.
If you're someone who is in favor of seeing more concrete because of its safety at racetracks, I mean, there's a lot of evidence right there because grass right there on the entry of turn one might allow that number 31 machine to get that car back down and not wash up the track because there's absolutely no traction once you get onto that grass. And not just that, but the car gets up in the air. We see him get severe contact on that. Let's see, that would be the right-hand side evasion for a car whose number I couldn't spot there. And then Cody Gaza, unfortunately, just doesn't have enough time to react and get clear of the number 31. 31 doesn't get a lot of time to be able to lock his brakes. We see debris fly through 1 and 2 here at Michigan here. Unfortunate end because the 63 and the 31, similar to what we saw at Kansas last week, they were hooked up and they were ready to go and try to defeat that invader in the 98 machine.
Yeah, that just takes out so many good cars. Talk about the 6-car Mulaney who was involved in an early race accident on the same part of that track that takes him out too. We was looking over the race scanner what happened between the 63 and the 31. It was just a bad bump in a bad spot of the racetrack as Mataska tried to go down to the bottom expecting to go higher and just doors him absolutely right in the door, T-bones him, and that just shoots him back up the racetrack. Pataska just doing everything he can to avoid that, and then that just sends the 31 to go spinning pinball in a pinball machine, just bouncing off the wall back down to the bottom of the racetrack. But yeah, that was just a bad bump that got them both loose. They hooked each other. Hixenbaugh did a great job saving that car, but sadly the 31 car, the best he could do was shoot off to the inside to try to save it, but that just got him into grass and became a skating rink. As here comes a 04 of Dave Fuse Jr. Gonna slam into him. That's gonna put Amos, who's had such a good run at Kansas. He T-bones him in the side. So just multiple rough hits for these guys towards the last half of this race. And it seemed Delaney who did what he could to try and hold on to that car as he ends up on 2 wheels flying across the racetrack. So that's just this is so rough to see because there are so many guys who had such a good turnaround in the later half of this race, and now they just have destroyed race cars, and that is not what anybody wanted to see.
That was an excellent breakdown of the melee between you and, you, Noah, and Andrew. Just a lot to break down there because there were a few different incidents going on there. Instead of just, the 31 washing back up the track, guys reacting to what they're seeing happening in front of them just caused multiple incidents to happen. So, while we had that incident, we had that yellow 98 machine of Eddie Kerner to compound the drama sped on pit road, so he's going to have to restart at the end of the longest line here, and that puts Hixenbaugh, who did not pit, along with Steele and Cadwell, I believe, up front here with about 35 to go.
Ring, ring, ring.
Yeah, and how about a turnaround for Kevin Steele because of that? He was restart second after starting second, so quite a turnaround for him. How about Christopher Hammond? He now gets himself in a really good position. So a lot of these drivers now realize, hey, because of this is a golden opportunity to try and get some points and maybe even a win. Because of the amount of drivers that ended up getting killed in that opens up a lot of doors for a lot of good points to try and get into the playoffs. But the number one person that's going to hurt in all this is Eddie Kerner, because look at how aggressive these guys are. How just all over each other they are trying to do that. That's going to help Hixenbaugh to try and open up a gap. But now, Eddie Kerner, if he catches up to these guys, they're going to have to bob and weave their way through this pack. But none of these guys are going to give them any room because they want to see 3 wide going to the corner between Caldwell, Woods, and Morrison as they go 3 wide for the top 5 spots. They're all over each other. Christopher Hammond up to second. Kevin Steele falls back to third, and Eddie Kerner, I'm trying to see where he falls back to. He's finally picked himself back up into the 10th spot, working on Randy Drumhiller for that 9th spot. As you know, he did get around Randy Drumhiller for the 9th spot. I'm trying to find out who he's trying to run down. Oh, he's actually a couple cars behind where the 9th place car is, so he is back there in 10th. So he's just trying to work whatever he can to try and get back up to those leaders, but with about 30 to 40 laps to go, he has a lot to work through to try and catch up to him, but obviously it's not really holding him back. He just set a new fastest lap.
Eddie Kerner, a man on a mission. What an absolutely electric 2 or 3 laps there. We saw the 3 wide battle about 2 laps into the run, and then Christopher Hammond, who now sits P2, he passed the 2 cars that did not pit, that were not Hixenbaugh. I'm having trouble there. But no, he passed them 3 wide on the back straightaway on the entry at turn 3. And now he's sitting in P2, and he's chasing down the 63 who did not pit and is on tires rather that are 5 laps older. So the 17 may have the advantage here with 30 laps to go.
On board with Kerner as he's all over Woods, and then Caldwell into one, a slow car on the apron. I'd imagine that's one of the drivers that was just in an incident. 3 wide is going to go Kerner on the bottom side of turn number 2. You can't go down there, at least I thought. That's Wineland re-entering the racetrack after his incident on the bottom side. But Kerner just drives down to the bottom side. We saw so many drivers lose control down there in that previous incident, and that's why they ended up getting into things, because they just didn't have grip down there. But Kerner does it for 2 positions, a 2-for-1 out of turn number 2, and that special is going to put him up into 6th. He's looking for a buffet ahead. He's got 5 drivers to pass for the race lead.
Yeah, I was talking about Eddie Kerner. He was looking to try and get around these guys. They're so aggressive and they weren't going to give him any room, and he knew that. So he made that 3 wide. He made that thing stick, which just praises how fast that car really is, how planted that setup is. The fact that he can run that all the way down there that fast and that deep into the corner, as now he chases after Kevin Steele for the 5th spot, as he is doing everything he can to try and close down. And now here he is. He is all over the back bumper. He is there and he is making a move. And updating your lead now. How about this? Christopher Hammond in the 17. He's your new race leader in the number 17 car. We have seen him all race running up there in the top 5 after having 2 races in a row that did not go his way. He leads his first race out of those 2 other weeks. So now put him up onto the top of the leaderboard, as here comes the 6th, the 98, taking a 3-for-1 in the first 2 corners. He's up into P3, exiting turn number 2. And a lot of the drivers on the radio are like, how was he able to do this? Because I'm wondering, how was he able to do that? That is absolute insanity that he just took another 3-for-1 in the turns 1 and 2.
Drivers are just in pure shock over iRacing communication systems, and Kerner already looking to the outside of the number 63 machine, who's blinking out a little bit there. A little bit of internet issues, but we're still side by side for the P2 position. Not even a half a dozen laps. End of the longest line for the number 98 machine on that last restart, and he's already looking at the lead with the number 17 machine. They're on the same tires, and he's already probably a few tenths of a second quicker than him, despite having to go through the pack and wear out his tires.
I just can't believe what we're seeing out of Eddie Kerner. That car is just so much better than the rest of the field, weaving down into turn 3. Hammond can't do anything about it. He's already got him cleared. He just made his way with that field. He's going to wash up a little bit out of 4, but keeps it off the fence because it's Eddie Kerner. Why wouldn't he keep it off of the fence? Hammond in behind him, but I don't know if there's anything that Hammond can do about it. Even if he draws alongside of him into 1, that 98 is just too good and is just going to drive back away. It's lap 173 of 200. He's got a 1/10.5 through turns 1 and 2. Let's document that. Somebody write that down. We're going to see what the gap is here in just 10 laps at the end of 183. Through 1 and 2. We're going to have to come back to that in 10 laps time and see where the gap is, because I bet the 98 is just going to set sail unless we get a caution.
Yeah, but we also got to give an update what happened back there. If you look maybe out the far right side of your screen, Hicksonville actually got loose off of turn number 2. I thought he went all the way around. It looked like he went fully sideways, but he actually held on to it. He falls back to 4th. Then moves Kevin Stone up to 3rd, as Kerner apparently also caught the wall of turn number 4. That's going to allow Christopher Hammond to the inside. Here they go. We have a race into the corner. He's trying to do what he can, but he can't make it stick, which just tells you how well he's able to hold on to that race car. That is just absolutely impressive. We were wondering, with the fact that he got that speeding penalty, that's going to make it interesting. Yeah, I made it interesting for about 5 to 10 laps, because he's already in race lead with less than 30 laps to go. He is now finds himself back in the P1, trying to do what he can to catch up to pull away from that 17 car. But just how about a turnaround for that 17 car? Now he finds himself in 2nd, doing everything he can to try and take home P2, or even a win to try and lock himself into the championship. The first driver in the playoffs without a win. He finds himself 8th, and you tell he's working hard for that, and he's wanting that back so much, as he is staying glued to the back bumper of that 98 car, doing everything he can to try and get back around him.
No, you said it very well. The man's been an absolute workhorse today. He's been a workhorse in the series, showing up week in and week out. And now he's putting pressure on the 98 to the point where the 98 got loose off of turn 4 2 laps ago, and he was able to go side by side, as we caught on Pit Stop TV here live. He's not out of it here. All he needs to do is keep the pressure here while his tires are still in it, while his setup is still able to keep up with that of the 98s, and he may have a shot here. Just has to keep the pressure on. We ride on board on that cockpit shot, but although we're looking outside the rear of the cockpit of the number 98 machine. And 17's staying there. He does have a little bit of a challenge behind the 57, who is also staying in tow.
So Christopher Hammond, Eddie Kerner are going to be your battle for the race win. From the way things look, this could all still change. We'll cross our fingers and knock on wood a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't, because Kerner has just run such a great race, but he is darn near sideways out of turn 4, dirt tracking each and every time. He's gotten closer and closer to that wall. A little bit of a blink there out of Hammond, but man, Kerner is just doing so good right now, driving back away to the best of his abilities. He's not driven away, though, like I thought he would. Hammond is hanging on for now with 8 of the draft. I'm just not so sure how it's going to last. It's in that corner alone, a 10th.5 for Kerner over Hammond.
Yeah, but now you gotta wonder what the question. If you saw how fast he was able to make his way through the field, you gotta wonder if how much he hurt his tires, and he's kind of holding on. Because you saw how hard he drifted off of turn number 4 on exit. So that's obviously his weakest point. To see him do it again, all the way up there near the wall, he's gonna have to get out of the gas to keep that thing off the wall. That just feeds him back into the line to the 17 car. He's able to hold it really well in the entry of the corner, but turn number 4 is what's killing him. Either that or he's just toying with us. I don't know anymore at this point. We thought it was going to be interesting, but no, it's not. Eddie Kerner just runs away with it. This is absolutely insane what we've seen out of this 98 car the past 2 weeks, and nothing has changed. He is just absolutely impressing everybody here, and why he's now a namesake in this series despite only having 2 wins. I talk about the fact he had rookies drive last week. He's going so fast. You rip those stickers off, because he's absolutely anything but a rookie, because he is running away with it, but not enough anymore, because he's had so much of a sizable gap to be comfortable with the lead, and now he's starting to do it again. He's really figured out his tires, and now he's just going to sail away from that 17 car as we approach 20 laps to go.
So over the last couple of laps, we've seen that gap start to go consistently to about 1 or 2 tenths each lap. So the driving ability and that setup in the 98 machine is starting to prove superior as the laps wear on, as we get longer and longer to what could be the final run here. So the top 5 are pretty separated, and they pull from the rest of the pack. So P6 is currently Matthew Woods here, and he's the first car in that long line of cars, but tight line of cars that is not the top 5. I want to send out a little update on that number 79 machine, of Nolan Hodgson, because fans have been talking about him in the chat rooms of these broadcasts here. You know, he's sitting P12 right now, and he's battling, I believe, I can't tell, I think that's a lap car there in front of him. But no, fans just wanted to see how he's doing. You know, he was inside the top 10 a bit earlier. He's about 10 seconds off the nearest car for position, but you know, with a yellow or two, he could get back up to there to guys like Preston McRae and Cam Cadwell for that top 10 position, right?
Yeah, the last time we talked about Hodgson really was at Kansas, when he had that incident out of turn 4. And we're just so surprised about what happened and everything that led into it. It's actually a caution. And this is going to happen up ahead of him, actually. This is Caldwell and Steele.
No, that's not what you wanted to see for Kevin Steele. He had such a good turnaround as he was running up in the top 10. We're going to have to try and take a look at what happened there. As he was going down the back straightaway with Caldwell. Oh, whoa, I don't even know what that was. Caldwell, keep an eye on the 12 car. You see... Yeah, you gotta wonder where the 12 car is gonna end up. He's able to keep a hold of that, because I believe he's gonna wash up into the field. It doesn't look like anyone's really gonna hit him, but still, it's a very questionable move. Maybe the 12 actually holds on to the grass and not gonna hit anybody, like we saw with the 31 car. So that's pretty good save on his part to keep control of that car. But still, not the way you wanted to see it go. He was running up there. He's actually going to hold. They're actually almost going to hold on to the top 10 spot. But go back and look at the 44 car, because here's something I want to point out. Watch what happens when they come down the back straightaway. The 12 gets loose off of turn number 2. That feeds him into the tails of the 44 car. He goes on the inside, and then we're trying to figure out what happened. He was trying to maybe get a little bit of an arc going into the corner, but he just turns down into him. But something I want you to point out to is keep it on board with him and keep it all the way up to the point where he wrecked, and look what happens here. So he goes sideways. He's looking at those billboards up there. He gets the grass, jumps up in a wall as here he comes. Look how close he gets hit. He almost got nailed by them as he ends up sliding back down into the grass. An update on the race communications, Caldwell did apologize to him, saying he got loose into the corner, and he's not too happy about the situation, but that's just a really rough way to see that end for both those drivers.
In the least, it doesn't look like they have terminal damage. There could be some, aerodynamic disadvantage as a result of that, but none of them really got into anything besides each other, and the contact wasn't very severe. But that's absolutely terrifying to be, facing, potentially going into an outside barrier at like 180 miles an hour there for Kevin Steele. In the least, these guys should stay on the lead lap. They may have to, take damage and get back out there at the tail end of the lead lap. But, top 10 is still a potential here. We only have 14 guys in the lead lap here. Eric Wineland, he was involved in that incident about 10 or 15 laps ago. He's back in the lead lap with the lucky dog now. It's a little hard to tell, with our timing and scoring, whether or not he still has the pace to contend. But in the least, he's looking for a top 10 points day.
So as the pit stops work themselves out, Eddie Kerner going to be your race leader over one Cameron Stone, who was third place going into that caution. What do you say we go ahead and try and dial him up? I saw him in here just a little while ago. I'm going to see if we can get the driver of the 57. I thought he was in Discord. We might have to settle for somebody else, in which case I've got one in mind. I could have sworn I saw... Yes, I do see Cameron Stone there. Teammate to Bryson Hickson, boss. Let's go ahead and get him really quickly. And Trey, I'll turn it over to you.
You got it. Cameron Stone, it's Pit Stop TV. Do you have a copy, sir?
Yes, sir.
So, you made it this far. You've stayed in the top 5 for a decent portion of the day. How are you feeling here coming into what could be the final run here?
Well, I don't know if I got anything at all for Eddie. I think he might have got that speeding penalty just to make it a little bit more interesting. Looks like speed-wise I can hang with Bryson tonight. Chris looks really good on the short run. We got about, 16 laps to go here when we go green, so it's going to be interesting. I think we might not finish second, but we hopefully just going to stay up here in the top 5.
Yep, you guys have been putting on a show, even if Eddie has, shown his pace here and there on the longer runs. How's your week been getting to the race here today with the new tire model and having to adjust to that in your setting up procedure?
It's been a really hard week on us. Really, I didn't know what the car was going to do on a long run because the tire model was so different. I was trying to dial it in for like 20 laps, and I really never got past that when I was testing. So it's been hard, but it's paid off this week. It's been a lot better than I expected.
Yeah, and the least you'll get a break from having to set up for ovals. You'll go to a road course, which is more reliant on, driver ability with the car and less having to do setup. So, wish you the best. We're getting ready to restart here. Thanks for your time, Cameron.
Appreciate it, boys.
So we'll get him moved back up hastily, and we'll go back green flag out of turn number 4. It's going to be Eddie Kerner, your race leader. We were just talking to Stone to his outside. Hammond in 3rd. It's Hickson outside in 4th. Matthew Woods in 5th. The restart goes green. 17 laps to go across the start-finish line. Eddie Kerner gets a big lead into 1.
Absolutely. Kerner caught Stone sleeping going into turn number 1, and now he runs away with the race lead. 57 going to close back up to the back bumper of him, as now he's really going to close up the gap. He might look to the inside, but it's going to depend on how well the 98 car gets planted in the corner again. It takes him about 3 or 4 laps to be able to actually run away from the field. So the number one thing these guys have to do, keep that 98 car near you. Don't let him get too far, as the 98 77 really falls back. 17 has to check up, and that's not what any of these leaders want here in the 17 lap dash. That's going to let the 98 car create that massive gap that we've seen, as now these guys have to work together to try and get around that 98 car, to try and block him and keep him behind him. In the 17 car, he's been the only one of the drivers that's in 3 cars that's still in this race that can do anything about the 98, and that's what his number 1 goal is going to be, is try to catch back up to that 98 car.
What I'm concerned about here is these guys look like they're, playing into their self-interest exclusively right now instead of working as a team. We saw that the 63 and the 31 were mounting a run when they were drafting down the straightaway. In fact, bump drafting with each other down the straightaways here. But Hammond wants, all of the glory, and that could be only 2nd position. Now, it's going to be tough for these guys to be able to hang with Eddie, but if we get a couple of cautions here and they're able to work together on a short run here, one of them may be able to come out on top ahead of that number 98 machine. So right now, the number 17 is staying right behind the number 98. He's getting a lot of slipstream down the straightaways. Jeremy Morrison finally making his way back up into the top 5 today. Have not talked about him for a little while. He's side-by-side Cameron Stone, who we just talked to, and Hickson Bao, one of the better guys in the series. He has 7 wins entering tonight. He sits P5. Not battling as hard with these guys as the 57 and the 22 ahead of him, so perhaps saving his stuff in case this goes all the way to the end from here.
So side by side go Morrison and Stone. Stone restarted 2nd, already back to battling for 3rd, and might lose 3rd and go into 4th. Meanwhile, Hammond all over Eddie Kerner into 1, and he is there. He's just got to figure out what to do with him. So far, I mean, you said it best, Noah. they could hang with him for 1 or 2, maybe even 3 or 4 laps. That's exactly what Hammond's doing for now, but we get closer to 10 laps into this run, and you're going to see that 17 start to fall off, and they go 3 wide almost into turn 3. Hicksenbaugh with a big slider on his teammate, Cameron Stone through 3. He just barely clears the 57 and holds the car down there. Here comes Mobley, who was a free pass car a little while ago. He's now to the inside of Cameron Stone. These guys are making it exciting, even for 6th, 7th place back here with 13 to go, sorry.
Yeah, all those guys are running so aggressive, trying to get every spot they can. Hicksenbaugh, the man on the mission, he was after an incredible run up to the front after starting 28th. Didn't even start a Q lap. Now he finds himself back up in the 3rd spot. He's back up in the front too, though, as the 17 car doing whatever he can to try and catch up to him. As now we have reached that point where the 98 car peaks those, well, not even peaks it really, just gets him to the green spot on those tires. As now he's going to try and start to run away with it here for the final 13 to 12 laps as they come down the front straightaway. He's going to lead that lap too. The 17 car is trying to reel him in as much as he can, but the only person really reeling anybody in is the 63 car as he tries to catch back up to take over the 2nd spot.
You're seeing the battle for the lead right now. It's started to stagnate. It's starting to flatten out between these two at about 3 or 4 tenths of a second right now. So maybe not over that for that number 17. We see an almost IndyCar style breaking of the draft down the back straightaway by Kerner. You know that you'll see at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the Indy 500 here. Not sure how effective it is in a stock car just because straightaways aren't as long here at Michigan. But, you know, he's trying whatever he can to try to break that draft wake and break momentum for the number 17 machine. So this time by, we take 11 laps to go. Only 22 miles remain. Quick update on the Lucky Dog battle. Doesn't matter quite as much because there's not as time to make up spots. But Jonathan Delany is holding the 16th spot over Dakota Knoll by only a few tenths of a second right now, I believe. He's increased that margin to about 2 seconds right now. Again, breaking that draft wake down the back straightaway by the 98.
Kerner doing everything he can to work the draft, work the air, and build his gap over Hammond. They continue to battle further back. Side by side go Mobley and Stone. They near each other out of 4. Stone noses ahead. Looks like he'll clear Mobley for a moment at least, but Mobley has that run out of the corner, draws back alongside of him a bit. Meanwhile, Drumhiller is through to 6th, Woods into 7th, and they battle further back. McRae actually not too far back off of Caldwell. This could be a battle that heats up here soon as well. This is the back end of your top 10.
And I have an update for you right now. Eddie Kerner is having connection issues. He has been blinking out through turns 1 and 2. He is gone right now, and he's been gone for a couple seconds. So big problem for the 98 car is his internet might be going out, which could be a big shakeup after the man who has dominated the last 2 weeks in the final 10 or so laps might fall out of this race. So keep an eye on him as smoke pouring out of the back of that car because of the fact he's been blinking and they're trying to get the tires on there. But this is big drama for the final 10 laps of this race.
Any damage you may be seeing from our broadcast is not what actually represents what Eddie Kerner is experiencing. It's just glitches because of his current connection issues. So that car is completely clean right now for the most part, despite his pretty consistent connection issues here. It's every few seconds that he disconnects, and he's gone for a few seconds at a time right now. Behind him, in case he does end up disconnecting from the server, the battle is really tight for what would be P1. But second place is only separated by 3 tenths right now. Hammond holding only 3 tenths over Hicksenbaugh.
Hicksenbaugh all over Hammond now. This could be a really good battle for second place. Talk about Kerner driving away, not being able to get caught on a longer run. Hicksenbaugh has caught Christopher Hammond off into 1. And, ooh, they were really close there that time into the corner. Hicksenbaugh has to back out, though, set himself back up for exit of the corner, get a good run on the 17, and he's going to do exactly that. But he's going to have to go the outside route as Hammond drops down to the bottom side and defends a bit of a defensive line into turn 3. But that's going to really, I think, just let Hicksenbaugh shine. Hicksenbaugh is generally pretty good at making a pass worker on the top side. He's going to do it this time by, so the New Yorker going to have to fall to Hicksenbaugh, it looks like, but actually drawing even out of turn 4. Hammond just doing a great job of hanging on to that spot.
Yeah, he's keeping on pretty well. That's why is 8th in the points standings after being the only car without a win. Well, the highest rated car without a win. He has done so well throughout most of the season. Just had 2 weeks of bad luck to hold him back, but now he is really starting to shine again, running up in the 3rd spot. He has capitalized on all the situations that have happened here tonight, with all the wrecks and all the incidents that happened with the leaders. He just made it work, and now he finds himself in a great point situation to try and keep himself within grasp of being locked in for the playoffs later in the season. But Hixenbaugh back with the race lead. The gap is about 1.6 seconds. I'm betting that's going to open up depending on where they are by the time the start finish line. We will wait for that. Yeah, but it's opened up another about half a second to 2 seconds now. So the leader is starting to run away again as those two fight on for the second spot with 6 laps to go as we wind down to the final as the battle heats up for the second spot still.
Quick update on the connection status of Eddie Kerner. So on our ends, he is not blinking quite as much. However, his connection to the server here is still not excellent. But in the least, he is not blinking in and out on our end, which is pretty solid. It means that it's starting to stabilize on his end in the least. We're going to continue watching this battle for P2 because it could very well end up being the battle for the win. Outside of that, it has spread out quite a bit. Just looking at timing and scoring, Matthew and Woods and Cam Codwell for 7th position is one of the closest battles on track right now. They're only separated by a couple of tenths, and Preston McRae, he took advantage of a lucky dog early in the race. He's right behind them. They're on the tail end of the top 10. Very tight battle, very exciting action here at Michigan in the final 10 miles.
What's worth talking about is somehow Eric Wineland is in 10th position. I don't know how. With all the issues he's gone through this race, he's in 10th. But timing and scoring is showing him in 10th place somehow, some way. Even after exiting the pit lane, man, it makes no sense. That has to be a scoring error, but ATBO is showing him in 10th.
Yeah, that's a very great job to try and get back after the rebound of that horrible wreck he had to ruin his race. But the rebound up to a top 10 spot is going to really save his points. So that's just a really good situation for him. There's only 14 cars in the lead laps. So still, he's the worst he can finish right now is 14th. But to be able to stick it on the lead lap, and not only that, run top 10 up in the right on the 10th position is just such an incredible turnaround for him and exactly what he needed.
A-plus job for Eric Wineland considering the circumstances. Sure, he could have approached what happened, the incident, differently, the bump drafting. Although, it happens. Racing accidents will happen, and, he's just taking advantage of that. So the top 10 have pretty much stabilized their positioning between each other. But at the tail end of that top 6, I think it's worth noting that Randy Drumhiller, who was a lucky dog within the last 50 laps or so, I believe, he's in the P6 position ahead of Matthew Woods there in the 48 car. He's doing an excellent job here tonight after, not being in the best circumstances. He was in the mid-teens, about 50, 75 laps ago, but he's right outside of the top 5. We have 2 laps of racing left, and, if we have a yellow here, he could be in the running for a race win if we have a lot of craziness happen.
Yeah, a lot of things can happen here in the final 2 laps or so in this race. This is such an incredible way to finish this run for all these guys. Hixenbaugh finds himself back in the second. He's gained 26 spots at the start of the race. Christopher Herman started 19th. He's in 3rd. Dalton Mobley in 77 started 29th. He's in 4th. The only person who's stayed stagnant with where they are is Kerner and Cameron Stone. As obviously Kerner started 3rd. He's in 1st. Cameron Stone started 5th. He's holding neutral in 5th. So quite an incredible way for all the people who started deep in the field to make a turnaround here as now we approach the 1 lap to go for Eddie Kerner as now he is close to going back-to-back wins as the Pride of Illinois only has 4 more turns to make that 3 to get win number 2 and start number 2.
A little over a mile to go for Eddie Kerner out of turn 2 down the back straightaway here at Michigan International Speedway. Eddie Kerner has been on rails all evening long. That car has just been the fastest aside from qualifying where he qualified 3rd, started 3rd, and since then he's just been the best car on the racetrack. Lap in, lap out, tags the wall at a turn 4, gives it a kiss. He's going to give the victory lane girl a kiss too. He wins at Michigan International Speedway. Eddie Kerner, his 2nd consecutive win on the season. They race it back for 2nd, but it's going to be Hixenbaugh over Hammond. Mobley over Stone, that's for 4th. Drumhiller takes home 6th. That's going to be Matthew Woods over Caldwell, McRae, and Wineland for 10th place.
And there's a really good run going back there on for the 10th, 11th, and 12th, or about the 11th, 12th, and 13th. Richard Petrucco is going to hold on to the 11th spot. Nolan Hodgkinson is going to take over 12th in that 79 car. Kevin Steele is going to finish 13th. Demarius Hickenbottom is going to be 14th for last car on the lead lap. Jonathan Delaney is going to have an incredible turnaround to finish 15th after losing all that damage. And then on back, Dakota Knoll in 16th, Cody Birch 17th, Brandon Gollett in 18th. Tommy Amos is going to have a rough race in 19th, Jeremy Morrison in 20th. As you see again, Eddie Kerner for the second week in a row is going to take that tie-dye number 98 and burn it down here in the automotive state. As in the backyard of Ford and Chevrolet, this is going to be a big win for that 98 team and that manufacturer. The Blue Oval, who has had so much history in the Motor City, is going to take it over here in Michigan.
Yeah, this event is conventionally their pride and joy for the real NASCAR Tour, and he did an excellent job here for Ford today, even on the virtual side. Looked like he was going for a Joey Logano-style burnout there initially, but then he decided to go for something more conventional, and he lit it up all along the start-finish line. And now he heads to Gatorade Victory Lane. Excellent job by Eddie Kerner. He won by about 3.8 seconds tonight. Good battles all around. Shockingly enough, we probably finished with about around as many cars as we did at Kansas last week, despite how high in attrition that.
So Eddie Kerner, you see him parking in victory lane, doing some burnouts on the checkerboard on the inside of the infield, and he's going to go ahead and tow it back to the garage. No, he's not. He's going to stay there, so that's just issues on my end. However, we'll go ahead and step aside for a moment. We'll be right back to you with then post-race coverage from Michigan International Speedway. Congratulations to Eddie Kerner winning tonight from Michigan. We'll be right back to you on Pit Stop TV. Welcome back, race fans, to post-race coverage from Michigan International Speedway. This has been the Corrugated Cardboard 400, race number 15 of 36 on the season for the Galaxy Cup Series, and what a show it was. We've got a few drivers to go ahead and talk to. First up, it's going to be race winner Eddie Kerner and Trey Shuttlesworth. I'll turn it over to you.
Eddie Kerner, congratulations on going back-to-back in the Galaxy Cup Series. First 2 races, and you have 2 wins. So, yeah, it wasn't a smooth road, quite as smooth as last week at Kansas, but no, yeah, just break down your day from, oh geez, I'm struggling here. Basically, what I wanted to point out is the fact that, you came back from that speeding penalty in the last 50 laps.
Yeah, it was a fun race. I was being dumb. I was changing TeamSpeak channels and accidentally sped and just kind of beating myself up for it. But the setup was fast. It was on rails. Thanks to Robert Miller and James Mullins for putting this thing together. It was wicked fast.
Seemed like your car was more set up for a long run. Would you have to agree with that?
Yeah, it was a long run set. I was able to pull them. I put on more tape, and I was able to kind of break the draft in the beginning, and then just drive away from the field after about 10 laps.
Yeah, that did seem to be the case on just about every restart today, from start to finish. So we were talking with a few guys today, and they were having a lot of people are having a lot of struggles with the new tire model after this week 13 update. Did you have any particular issues coming into tonight?
No, I didn't. The tire hasn't, at least for me, it hasn't really felt it's changed too much. There is a little bit, you're able to get the high groove working in a little bit. There's more of a second lane. Like on the restarts, I was letting the runs just go to the bottom, and I was able to hang on the high side. But the tire-wise, no. Just really focused on saving the right rear and making sure you're not getting loose on that long run.
Nope, making sure you can save your right sides is definitely the way to go, especially your right rear on entry here. So are you going to still be looking at racing for the full season here, even though you're not eligible for the playoffs here? Because I was looking at a clarification, and you need at least 15 starts to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I joined this league because I wanted to have some full-length races and have some green flag runs, and I'm enjoying myself. So yeah, I plan on running as many as I can.
Nope, that's good enough reason. It's, probably the best product you can have with the stock car is once you get onto a long run and get to race it out when the tires are, completely bare. So anyone you want to thank out there, sponsors, friend-wise?
Again, just thank Robert Miller and James Mullins for putting the setup together, and team owner Zach Hudson for having me. So that's
all right. Congratulations, Eddie, on your second consecutive victory here at Michigan Speedway in the Galaxy Cup.
Thank you.
That was Eddie Kerner, a race winner here. So next, Noah Carmichael will be speaking to our runner-up, Bryson Hickson-Bow.
That's Bryson Hickson-Baugh. As he finishes second here today. Bryson, you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Well, you was able to come back after not setting a lap in qualifying, starting 28th, and you actually ran all the way up to as high as the lead. How was that turnaround for you trying to get that car up to the top half of the field?
Just strategy, trying to make it work. It didn't work out a whole lot early in the race, as I said in my mid-race interview, but got to the front when that happened and was able to stay up there for the rest.
Well, we saw what happened with you and Wineland on the trying to pass Kerner there and going to turn 1. What exactly happened between you two, and what was your reaction to seeing that happen in your mirror?
He just tried to give me a bump draft, see if he could push me around Eddie. On the new damage model, I think there's an issue where the cars kind of clip together and catch on each other so they don't push cleanly, and he just caught on my rear and was almost pushing me around, and when I went to save it, I just kind of whipped him to the infield, and there wasn't a whole lot he could do after that.
we kind of saw what happened with you in stage 1 after that crazy little pit strategy you pulled out there, staying about 20 laps out to pit, compared to everybody else. How were you able to manage those tires that much to be able to stay out for almost an entire stage like that?
I was taking it real easy at the beginning, so I stayed at the back and was just hoping not to get caught up in any wreck from the mid-pack area. Once they kind of calmed down a little bit, I was able to work my way through the field without pushing the tires too hard. And I was able to just kind of ride it low while everybody else was struggling with right front wear. And then I wanted to go all the way as much as I could on fuel. I ended up pitting like 3 laps before I needed to because Eddie actually caught me earlier than I thought he would. But really just was hoping for that caution there, and it didn't come out.
Alright, well, before I let you go here, do you have anybody you want to thank for your runner finish here tonight in Michigan?
I'd like to thank my sponsor, Casey's General Store. They have the best gas station pizza in the Midwest. If you have one near you, you need to go get some.
Alright, gotta love that sponsor plug there, Bryce. Congratulations on the runner and finish here tonight, and we'll see you next time out. We get to do a broadcast with you guys.
Cool to be talking to you guys again. See ya.
So that's Bryson Hickson by your second place finisher. Next up, we'll of course bring in your third place finisher, bronze on the podium, Chris Hammond. Do you have a copy?
Yep.
Well, Chris, you know, we've only been here for a few weeks, and it seems like you've built up your reputation as being consistent here in the series. For the last couple of weeks have obviously been rough for your 17 team. That being said, you turned it around tonight, and you really blew me away with how fast that 17 car was.
Yeah, in the beginning, where you guys came along, like it was pretty consistent there in the beginning, but last few races, once you guys started coming, it got kind of bad there for a second. So I really took a lot of time this week on my setup to really make sure that I could be as fast as I could, and finally paid off, and finally didn't get caught up in someone else's mess. Finally, there was a couple times that could have happened, but it didn't.
Well, you end up coming home third, and you looked like for a while you had some speed maybe to get up there and tangle with Kerner. Do you think if you had a late race caution, say with 7 to go, you could have maybe beat him?
If I had fresh tires and somewhere around like 5 to 7 laps to go, like it would have been a battle. I'd definitely say that, because I could run a good 7-8 laps full throttle if I needed to, but obviously if you do that, you're pulling your tires. So it could have been a battle if that happened. But 15 laps, I knew I could push a little harder, so I definitely pushed in the beginning. It worked out.
Well, you still come home with a really good finish. Looking forward to the rest of the mid-season here. The summer months really kind of drag on here for the NASCAR Cup schedule, but it seems like you're going to have some decent stretches ahead, considering you've been fast each and every week, just haven't necessarily closed out on the finish that maybe that 17 deserved. How do you feel going into these summer months, the stretch to the playoffs?
Well, to be honest, I actually think I caught on something practice just right here before this race, so definitely feel a lot better if I can miss all the wrecks and keep my luck going like in a better direction than what it was before this week. Then I think it'll be good.
Well, Chris, before we let you go tonight, again, congratulations on the third place finish. Did really, really good tonight. Had a lot of speed. Who do you have to shout out? Who do you have to thank for your big run in third?
I thank my wife and the family might be watching too, I think, and my wife puts up with me doing all this setup time and all that, so thank her.
Well, Chris, thanks for your time. Hopefully we're talking to you next time out. And again, congratulations on your run and have a good evening.
Thank you.
That's Christopher Hammond. Just, again, I can't stress enough how surprised I am, how happy I am to see that he had a really good run here tonight. Third place, led a few laps after starting 19th, and I mean, he really looked like he was almost the next best car. He got bested there after a while by Bryson Hixenbaugh, but he looked so good for a long time. Probably one of the few cars that could have actually taken a shot at Eddie Kerner.
Yeah, absolutely. The 17 car just had a really good turnaround. I talked about the fact that he was the first car leading the group of non-winners in the playoff standings, and that just goes to prove why he had such a good run. It was just 2 bad races that we just so happened to be there for. So for him to be able to turn that around is such an incredible thing to catch. Hold on one second. Yeah, it's just something incredible to watch, and I'm just so happy to see that 17 car go up there. Overall, such an incredible race to watch after the 2 races that we had with Charlotte, where we had about, it was the longest race with only about a caution per stage. It kind of split up really well. There's just the chaos filled Kansas, and they come here and have such a great turnaround and have a really clean race with some amazing battles. Just something incredible to see. But if, in all honesty, if Kerner wasn't there, he'd probably have one of the best races of the season. But you know, it just goes to show just how strong the 98 car has been since his debut.
I think it had everything we like from you know, speed, well, not super speedways, but intermediate tracks, although Michigan isn't quite an intermediate track, a little bit bigger than it. But, you know, it had a lot of long run racing and a lot of short run racing, a lot of variation and strategy because of it. Stages caused a bit of the mix up, and then it was just a lot of natural yellows as a result of, you know, guys getting into each other. It's going to happen when you have a bunch of high powered stock cars here, especially at a big track like Michigan. Overall, I think it was a big improvement over Kansas, and I think these guys are going to carry a lot of momentum as they head into the first road course of the season at Sonoma.
Definitely a change in pace for Sonoma next week. I don't believe we won't be on the air, unfortunately, with Sonoma next week, but with everything that's gone well so far these last few weeks with the Galaxy Cup Series, I can say we're working on many more dates throughout the summer and into the fall. Nothing is solid just yet, but I just quickly want to thank the Galaxy Cup Series, ABillion Wood Projects LLC, and everybody here at Galaxy that has welcomed us with open arms and helped us be better. I mean, Daniel Fields worked with me throughout the week to make sure we had a better looking broadcast, because I'm sure, you know, it's the elephant in the room with some of the stutters that we've had the last few weeks in the picture, and that was almost rectified tonight. You didn't have it until like the last 20 laps, so that's definitely improvement there. I gotta thank Daniel Fields. Doesn't always last so long in these races, but definitely helped us look a bit better on the broadcast tonight. That said, I want to quickly go down your running order. Eddie Kerner winning tonight at Michigan. Bryson Hixenbaugh then finishing second place. Christopher Hammond coming up in third. It's Dalton Mobley in fourth. Cameron Stone in fifth. Randy Drumhiller in sixth. A really good run after being a lap down not so long ago. Matthew Woods ends up finishing seventh in the number 48. Another really good run for a driver who really needed it. Cam Caldwell ends up eighth even after those couple of issues and him spinning out with Kevin Steele. Preston McRae, our pole sitter who fell back to a lap or two down and looked like he was pretty much out of this thing, comes back for a 9th place finish, a top 10. I think has to be considered a really, really good night there for Preston. And Eric Wineland, I think the same thing there. While he should have finished a whole lot higher after that massive turn 1, turn 2 accident, to come home 10th has to feel pretty good.
Absolutely, a lot of eyebrow raisers within that top 10. It's just an incredible way to do it as we roll back to 11th on back right now as I try to get that pulled up here on the screen. As you see, 11 is going to be Rich Pachuco. Had 2 rough races of connection issues. He finally gets able to go back in 11th. Nolan Hodgson is in the 79 car. There's your last shout out for everybody in the chat. And a Sparta who went after us a little bit when he got in the game chat. He gets hold on to 12th. Kevin Steele rebounds after that incident with the 12 car. He's going to get back 13th. The Mayor's, Hickenbottom is going to take that 09 to 14th. Jonathan Delaney, after being involved in 2 hard accidents, he gets it 15th. 16th is going to be Dakota Nolan, the 36th. Cody Bird in the 64 is going to hold on to 17th. Brandon Gullett in the 55 in his third start takes 18th. Tommy Amos is involved in that rough accident with Eric Wineland. He rounds out 19th. And then Jeremy Morrison, who was running so well the last 2 weeks in the early parts, falls back and finishes in the 20th spot.
We'll look at more of the guys that did not have, a very fortunate day. Starting off with Dave Hughes Jr. in the 21st position, 35 laps down. Dallas Patoska, unfortunately, he was running in the top 5 most of the day. Unfortunately, just got involved in late incidents. Same for Wayne Grassi, although he fell victim to connection issues. Then he just probably, I would assume, felt that, it just wasn't worth it to stay for the end and only grab a couple of points. He came into tonight already. Oh no, he is newer to the series. He does not have a win. Apologies there. Cody Goza was involved in an incident or two, and his day was ended in the one where he was involved with Eric Weinman, I believe. Danny Myatt will come in 25th position. Josh Copernall in 26th position. Brian Mabry was another guy who was running up front for the early stages of the race. Daniel Fields, unfortunately, will have another rough week, and he'll have another DNF. Zach Probst is probably going to fall outside of the top 16 after tonight. He'll finish 29th. Series newcomer Jason S. Taylor. He had a pretty solid qualifying run in 15th or 16th, I think, but he'll finish 20th, unfortunately. 30th.
And your next batch of drivers is going to be Jacob Grider finishing 115 laps down in 31st. Tim Reel ends up coming home in 32nd, 116 laps down. Hunter Moody making his debut, finishes 33rd in the number 33. Not a great night there. Chris Wood in 34th. Alan Hewitt, an early exit, 174 laps down in 35th. Mike Aiello Jr. in 36th, your last car on the racetrack. Again, don't mind Spotter 79 down there. Thank you for spotting one of these drivers and helping Hodgson out, but did not race tonight. But Aiello will be your final driver on that running order, 180 laps down. Guys, I do quickly want to flash the points coming into the event. We don't have the live standings afterwards. We forgot to go over this earlier on. These are your playoff standings coming into tonight's show. Hixenbach came in with 7 wins and 47 playoff points. He did not, I don't think he won either stage. I believe those went to, I want to say Wineland and, no, I think they both went to Kerner. I think they both went to Kerner. But regardless, Hixenbach comes in with 7 wins. Wineland, McRae, you can see those guys all with 1. And, well, Trey, you mentioned it. Kerner won't be eligible for the playoffs, but he does now have 2 wins on the season.
It's not like he doesn't have anything to fight for here either. He has a lot of bragging rights to fight for, and I think, like he said, it's just awesome to find series like this where you can get into long runs. These are full-distance NASCAR races, mimicking what should have been the 2020 NASCAR schedule. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun here in Galaxy Cup, and he's having a lot of fun.
Yeah, it kind of highlights a little bit and lets Kerner get a bit of practice for the real life series as he tries to get himself into the pro series. We talked to him last week and he was so happy to actually find a full-time series that he gets to race with. So it's really good for him to be able to come here. As you look through a lot of it, you see a lot of drivers who had good and bad days. Zach Probst, Brian Mabry, 2 guys trying to get himself back into the playoffs. Both of them had really rough races. They're going to fall down. Cody Bird had a little bit of a turnaround. He ended up putting himself in a really good position. Same for Matthew Woods, top 10 finishing position. He finished higher than all 3 of the drivers he needs to beat to get into the playoffs, so he might find himself in a good position come next week. Danny Myatt had a rough way to go for it. Demarius Hickenbottom had a pretty good run. Tommy Amos was involved in that wreck. He finishes back outside the top 10, so he's going to be able to hold on to it because of how much of a gap he has. And then Christopher Hammond, Christopher Hammond, he, just after 2 bad weeks, finally is able to turn around as he was happy to finally get a good solid run here on Pit Stop TV. So he's very happy about that. He's going to hold himself solidly in that 8th position.
Yeah, really good run there for him, and really happy to see that he did so well tonight. But that will conclude our coverage then from Michigan for the Corrugated Cardboard 400 at Michigan International Speedway. We here at Pit Stop TV thank you for tuning in and joining us for tonight's action, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast. You can join us this coming Tuesday, rather, for the Lucky Dog Sim Racing League as they visit. Sorry, man, my brain just stopped there. As they visit Spa-Francorchamps, that should be a heck of a show, completing their season of 13 races. We started at Daytona, race number 3. It'll be the 11th race that we cover for the Lucky Dog Sim Racing League, and what a trip it has been. You can also tune in to Pit Stop TV on Thursday evening. Sorry, actually on Wednesday evening, we'll have the Sodak iRacing Sprint Car Series. Almost forgot all about them. I'm not sure where they will be going, unfortunately, just yet. But you can tune in Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for the Sodak iRacing Sprint Car Series. This last time around, they were at Volusia with the 305s. This week, again, not sure of which sprint car or the racetrack, but they'll be back in action Wednesday evening. And Thursday evening, then, we'll have the SRCA Pro F2000 Series from Montreal at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And I'm probably butchering that just a tad bit, but should be a lot of really good racing this week. Make sure to follow us on Facebook at www.com/pitstop. Wow, did I say www.com? Yikes. www.facebook.com. There he is. There we are. I almost said there he is. See, this is what happens when you do 3-4 hours of broadcast and your mind just is not there. You can follow us on Twitter, of course, at pitstoptv_, on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/pit_stop_TV, and on YouTube by searching pitstoptv. This has been Noah Carmichael and Trey Shuttlesworth with me on the call tonight. I'm Andrew Cardinale IV for Pit Stop TV, and we will see you next time.
We got that motor, buddy. Hey, just between you and me, the idea is to avoid the other cars. Congratulations! You just set the sport back 30 years with that move. That move will put you in the Hall of Shame. You keep doing stuff like that and we're going to lose our sponsor. Looks like that's it for us today. Now I know why you got canned by your old team. It's over. We can't fix that damage.
Looks like your car is toast. You'll need a tow back to pit lane, press and hold your reset button, and we'll come and get you.